It's a wide open Wednesday, and wide open from downtown once again is Pascal Siakam. Oh, whoops. Sorry. Tough one last night. What's going on? Sorry to pour some salt into that open wound. Billy Schmid, Armin Sarian, returning champion, back holding an L, and John Kuhn clocked in ready to go. And 125, 108. Gentlemen, I'd love to be able to say good things. I'd love to be able to try and find more, and we will. Listen, tip off 4:30 Friday. We are going to have a whole lot of optimism rolling into Gainbridge Fieldhouse. But at this exact moment, after you get beaten all four quarters last night, thoroughly beaten by the Indiana Pacers, and John ran on by the Indiana Pacers. I think that's one deal that many Bucks fans on the new NicolaLaw.com talking text line 414-799-1973 interacting with us all day long. That's going to be one deal that is going to have to stop. Of the ability for Indiana to run in transition. You did not see it at all in game one. They got out and ran on the Bucks last night and ran away from it in the fourth quarter. That was a painful final 12 minutes.
And every time the Bucks seem to have gotten a little bit of their mojo back, every time they made a punch, Indiana had a counter punch.
Yeah, big one.
And that's last 2 minutes of each quarter, I felt were really painful, where the Bucks have clawed themselves back into a situation, and then Indiana would just stretch it out before a big timeout, before a big break in the action, especially right there before half. There was a big push by Indy to really get it up to, 8-10 points at halftime, which felt, oh my gosh, I fought this whole half, and Dame had himself another strong first half, and Brooke had himself a shooting night. Complimentary play not quite there for the Bucks like it was in game one. And this was a lot of what was to be expected of this series, right? Two teams that could run and get out in transition, and two teams that didn't play a whole heck of a lot of good defense throughout the year. So you expected it to be a high scoring. The Bucks now saw, when the Pacers play well, what they are capable of. This might in fact be a series where you got to outscore the other team. Maybe game one was the anomaly.
Well, Indiana hadn't been held to under 100 points in quite some time. And Armin, welcome back. Thanks, back to talk about such an exciting, glowing victory last night. Oh, whoops, by the way.
Did you have this type of luck when you were out there in Vegas, Armin? Did you have success out there? Did you bring home the bad juju last night for us?
There might be something to that, because my last day was my worst in terms of the luck factor out there. So in that last day,
was
Monday.
It on the line. You were pushing.
I was trying to push it a little bit. I was trying to push it. And the thing was, maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's the reason that the bad mojo was there. You're right, John, though. The end of the Bucks were up by 55-54 with 1:34 to go in the second. And then they end up going down 5 at the half. They were actually down 179-78 with 3:58 to go in the third. And then they lose that lead. It goes all the way up to 7. It did feel like those end of quarters did hurt a little bit. I hope it's not my, bad luck or bad energy. If so, I'd like to take credit for the good luck or good energy that they started with in game one. But
go back to Vegas.
Yeah,
we need you to go back to Vegas.
At least for the first game.
Watch it from the Bellagio.
Man, I want that. I want that assignment.
Well, you get it soon. But yeah, no, that is a good assignment. But no, it was tough. It was tough. Our old, Butch always used to tell us that that role players play better at home. And that's what was the opposite last night. And I thought that was what really killed the Bucks. Outside of Brooke and obviously Dame, who, went a combined 12 for 20 and from 3, really good. You had Portis 0 for 2 from 3. Chris had the only other one with 1 for 3. You had Beverly 0 for 2. Crowder 0 for 2. Pat 0 for 1. Beasley 0 for 1. AJ 0 for 1. So
they made 1 3 by a guy not named Brooke or Dame.
1 3, and it was by Chris, and obviously, he had his issues. So it was frustrating, I think, in that sense. Is that then you look at, you look at Indiana. Nesmith, Miles Turner, those guys are dropping threes. Halliburton 3 for 7, Siakam 3 for 4. It's still about making buckets. They were able to make those, and we weren't. And the thing is, you're right about the transition.
Is it just about making buckets?
Well, it's creating those shots.
It is the creation of shots. Indiana found so many ways to get their threes.
So many.
How many did they not have a guy even close out on them? They had a bunch. And last night, the Bucks looked slow. Last night, the Bucks looked old. The complementary players did not look as athletic as Indiana's complementary players. And that's just the hard truth of it. And, sitting here feeling really good after game one about what they could accomplish, now you're going into game three, and now the reality sets in with Giannis. Okay, back to the drawing board. The drawing board said split without Giannis at home. They're going to need him back. They're going to need him back if they expect to win this series.
Well, and that's where Tristan and Wausau was first in, that said it was always Pacers in 5 without Giannis. Brad and Sheboygan, Bucks lose this series in a gentleman's sweep. That was not the sentiment on Monday,
No,
understandably so.
Yeah.
But there was this feeling that, all right, you do still have the ace in the hole. Giannis can come back in at any time. Now, granted, my man was standing up far too much for my liking on the sideline. If we're going to get some healing going, Giannis, let's sit down.
Stay down.
Right? Stay down. I love that we're into the game. I love that we're intense.
It's like
but let's get some healing going here.
It's like when your voice was hoarse and your mom said, "Stop talking, Armin."
Yeah.
Armin, you got to stop talking.
You were never shutting up.
No,
you were going to continue rolling.
Right.
If they're going to be able to bring him back and unleash him whenever, as we had been more asking people, when do you bring him back? When do you feel comfortable bringing him back? When do you hold on to him for? Now, if he doesn't go on Friday, that's when the real trepidation will set in. That's when the real fear starts going, because if he isn't able to go after you get smacked at home that way and that emphatically, then it makes it feel like he might not be ready for at least game 5, right? Closer to game 6. Then you're looking at him missing at least a week and a half into the series, maybe the entire series. Like, this feels to be now. I mean, we had been asking, how long do you hold on to him for? That's assuming, guys, that you're able to hold on to him. We don't necessarily know. Doc Rivers said yesterday he was able to go out there and shoot a little bit. That doesn't sound very glowing to be able to go 38 minutes on Friday. That was just me listening to it. So this is a wake-up call for it.
I kind of look at what Joel Embiid's doing in Philadelphia. And we know the injury history for him, and in playoffs especially, and missing so much time. And he's out there looking like, I mean, honestly, he's got production, but he looks like a shell of himself with the way he's able to move around the court. But he is cleared. He is cleared by the doctors. Giannis is up and walking around. Giannis looks like he wants to go, but I got a feeling he hasn't been cleared by the doctors yet to be able to go do this thing. Right. We talked about the soleus and the Achilles and the risk and the chance and what that means for the future for the Bucks if something else happens to go next. And I just can't help but think you're watching Joel Embiid, guy who's missed a bunch of playoff games in his career, out there battling with the injuries that he has because he's been cleared by the doctors to be able to go out and do that. Giannis is not. And there may be something to that.
Well, yeah, it's a tough situation. The question is, what, even if Giannis comes back, how much are you going to get in terms of help from him? It reminds me of last year when he was injured in the first series, came back, but the back was obviously an issue. He wasn't himself, didn't play great. Doesn't mean you don't want him still out there. Doesn't mean you can't have him out there. The Bucks obviously are a lot better with him out there, especially the way they can defend the rim right now, the way they can create baskets inside. Yes, the Bucks need Giannis back, but I also refuse to believe they're cooked without him. And I know that's the first place fans go to in their mind. They open that dark door of the fatalism. Well, we're just going to lose every game now. And it was like a gentleman's sweep. I don't believe that, right? You lose a game in this series. You won the first game. You lose the second one. Now it's time for the Bucks to adjust. Yes, they're going to Indiana. Indiana's probably going to be the favorite at home. They're going to, the Gainbridge. That doesn't mean the Bucks are cooked. Now they have to take one of the next two. I think they can do it even if Giannis is not there. It makes it a lot tougher of a job. But it doesn't make it impossible for me. So I don't think there's all is lost Eeyore mentality is what we need right now.
Well, that's
just what you get, right?
Understandably so when you get beat that way. Sure. And that's where it was a thorough victory yesterday for Indiana. They won every quarter, right? Like there was no time that they did not have a better answer for whatever the Bucks were able to put down. And Ryan and Brookfield had a good point here. He's listening on the iHeartRadio app. Was there a big difference in points in the paint? It seemed like the Pacers had a lot more than the Bucks. They were also able to get a lot more easy buckets that Obi Toppin was capitalizing on a couple of clean back doors. Marcus Johnson had a great cut up coming back from a timeout where Pat Bev just loses Toppin after the shot attempt, and he comes in with a putback. They outscored the Bucks by 16 in the paint. Giannis ran through Indiana in the paint in the regular season. Dude that averaged 50 against this team.
Totally different game, obviously, if he's in there, yeah.
But very different from the standpoint of how I started this. Like if Indiana is going to be able to run the way that they did, and I don't know that it's going to be as much in game 2, hopefully, if you're going to win games, but I think they're going to be able to run a little bit more than they did in game 1. That's where you're going to need him more than anything, is to be able to combat that, to run at least a little bit. I don't know how much he's going to be able to give you, but if he's going to be out there, and John, you bring up Embiid, it's tough for me to compare the two because I don't think Giannis can play at all the way Embiid plays right now, right? Like Giannis can't play if he's only moving 3.1 miles an hour. His game's not going to be able to flourish to the point where Embiid can move 7 steps in a possession and still be effective.
And it could be the reason why Embiid has been cleared to play, even though he looks like he's limping on every step that he takes. And Giannis,
he's got that low cane though to him. He's got that old man walk to him.
He's got the old man
the
walk.
Sacho Mache, where you just you hit him with the pimp limp at all times.
You just look in pain at all moments, right? Like Low Cane looked like he was in pain doing anything.
That's a great point. And he's got
smooth right there.
And he's got old man game too. Right, he can move around slow, kind of take those pull-ups, shoot those threes. That's not Giannis's game, right? That old man game is not Giannis's game. It's 100 miles an hour, aggressive, strength, power. We get that, yeah. So unfortunately, but you're right. If they can find a way to make this a half-court game, I think the Bucks are much better off. The only problem is they couldn't do that last night, right? And on Giannis, obviously changes that equation a lot.
414-799-1973. This is a question that we're getting into, and we've touched the surface on it. And Tristan and Wausau puts it in a pretty good paint. And I want to know a lot of Nooner's takes on it because he's been the focal point of the conversation. When can you bring him back? Tristan and Wausau, is this year's team isn't worth risking long-term injury if we can't beat Indiana without him? Is that true? You think that? Nah. I mean, like, because that is the point. We don't know where Giannis's grade strain is, right? For all we know, they could have deemed it a grade 2 sprain. He's out till mid-May regardless, right? Like there could be that conversation that they've already had. They haven't let anybody know any bits of the information.
Yeah, I don't know.
This worth it pushing?
Shams came out and said it was a grade 1, that it was.
He put the timeline on what the differences were.
Yeah, I would think that Shams would know. When these things get leaked, they're usually fairly accurate. With that said, the soleus injury still, even it with a grade 1, and you like to say grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, but they're not made in uniform boxes, right? You don't have an exact grade 1. It could be somewhere between a 1 or a 2. And Tristan Wausau might be onto something here. Are you really willing to risk long-term injury to Giannis right now? Are you really willing to risk that? Because I think his play style plays a big part into it, Billy, just like you said. And it's probably the reason why he's not been cleared, because he's explosive and he's going to take off and he's going to put a lot more force on his joints and his muscles and his tendons than what Embiid is right now, going at 3 miles an hour up and down the court. Do I think the Bucks can beat the Pacers in 7 games without Giannis? No, I don't. Not after last night. After game 1, there might have been some hope, but no, that put it all to rest last night. Especially watching Chris Middleton go down once again last night and him limp around the court for about a quarter and a half, 2 quarters. It's not just the complimentary players that feel old right now too, right? Dame is the only one that, and they'll go through 5 minutes of him not getting a look at the basket at times because, I mean, he's exhausted. He's out there, he's playing 40 minutes, and how many opportunities can he realistically get? But that's what they need, because the rest of the rest of the guys look slower. They look undermanned compared to what you're talking about with complimentary players for the Pacers. And now, if Giannis doesn't come back, it's probably going to be a first round out again for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Well, that Chris thing, that really did hurt, because I, kept saying to myself, I was like, the Bucks are going to need more from Chris if they're going to be able to win this without Giannis. And unfortunately, when he got hobbled up, that was like, well, what's going to happen now? So I think that hurt a lot. I also think, I do think it's worth giving Giannis a go if he's good enough to go. I understand the nervousness about injury.
I don't know that they have the choice though.
I think if you're worried about injury, that's true too, Billy. But if you're worried about injury that much, then he should have been playing the last 2 months of the season. That's just the reality to me. Like if you're worried about him putting him in a box that much, you got to put him in a box before the playoffs start.
He didn't have a calf strain before that. Those final 2 months.
He had the
Achilles, 10.
Well, that's all this tendonitis, right?
No, it wasn't a tendonitis. It was a different one. And I've been trying to go back. There's
tendinopathy.
There's no reports as to what the grade strain is for Giannis. Like Shams never had it. Names never said it. They've never released it. Like there could be something to it. And this is where, we were talking about it a little bit yesterday, Armin, where the back and forth and the differences of opinion, differences of messaging going into game one, where it almost seemed like Pat Bev was saying, hey, squad's going to be ready to go. Made me kind of think, okay, he thinks Giannis is going to play. He's trending towards getting ready to go. Doc saying, hey, I'm not going to tell him what he can't do. Peter Fagan saying, absolutely not. Absolutely not. He's not playing. So there's something there that they know much, much more in the Bucks offices than any of us do. And right now, maybe they're just going to hold that ace in the bag because they want you to think that they have it. I don't know that they have that right now.
Well, I think that's part of it.
We'll see on Friday. If he doesn't go on Friday, they have serious concerns, I think, if he can play the rest of the season.
I think there's gamesmanship. There's also, I'm sure they'd like to win without him and play it safe and have everything worked out. But I don't know that that's reality. I think they thought the same thing last year with Miami. I think they figured, this is a 1-8. Giannis is back. But you know what? I think we can survive this without Giannis. And then it got to the point where you realize, oh, blank, you can't. We're bringing him back. He's obviously not 100%, but Giannis probably wants to give it a go. And it might be the same type of situation. But I'm sorry, playoff situations, contending situations are precious resources. I'm not ready just to pitch it away and say it's not worth the risk because we might not,
Armin, the difference is with a back, Armin, with a back, you're dealing with a muscle strain, a pull. You're dealing with something that if he happens to hurt it again, coming back into that series, it could be, a couple weeks in the offseason that he needs to take care of this thing before he strengthens it and gets it back to him. If he has a soleus strain that leads to an Achilles, that leads to potential Achilles rupture, you're talking about losing him for next season.
Okay.
Next year.
It's a completely different than last year's scenario. Completely different.
Yes, and I think that the real risk of an Achilles has to be something that the medical staff has to look at and make the decision then. Because if it's a really actual high risk of Achilles, then you're probably right. It's not worth it because not worth it's not the right word. It's always worth it to try and win the playoffs, but it's not a smart idea because you don't.
The risk and reward is something you got to talk about though. That balancing act is assessing the risk.
However, medical staff knows that better than anybody. Like none of us are doctors, so I don't know what that real risk is. Right?
Did the medical staff in Golden State did they know it? Did they know it better than anybody else?
I don't know, but that doesn't mean just because it happened to Durant, it's definitely going to happen to Giannis.
No, it doesn't. But it also doesn't mean because it happened to Durant, it won't happen to Giannis. I mean,
sure, we don't know. Injuries could always happen though. Anytime they step on the court, it could happen too. So that's kind of where I look at that and say, I think the words "worth the risk" is wrong because I think playoff situations are always worth a run. Now, I'm not saying put him out there if he's obviously going to, be in a bad situation for himself. But
do they need him to win this series? If they don't play Giannis, can they win this series?
They can, but it's a lot tougher. Obviously, I think they're 35-65 to lose it without him.
They're
40-60 to lose it without him.
As the Nooners told us earlier this week, Armin, and you weren't. Yes. So you missed it.
I missed it.
As the Nooners said, if they're going to win this thing, if they're going to win another game without Giannis, Indiana's going to have to be complicit. I will give the Nooners
after game one. After game one, they said that.
Yeah.
Well, that seems a little bit pessimistic to me. You go on dominate game one. They said we can't win another one. Come on.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. But 414-799-1973 on the NicoletLaw.com talking text line. Let's hear it. 414-799-1973. And do you think the risk is worth the reward for the 2024 Milwaukee Bucks right now? Tough question to ask after getting smacked in the mouth 125, 108 like they did at home. And if you were at the game last night, you rocking that shirt like our guy Josh Albrecht was? I love that. Keep flying the flag. They're going to need it on Friday. We're going to have you on the other side of this break. We're also going to have Matt Schneidman join the conversation in 40 minutes. He has made his final pick of the athletic staff mock draft. And it's a name that is not going to excite a whole lot of people. I can't wait for him to talk about it in 40 minutes. It's 9 to noon off and running on a wide. Probably the only way you're enjoying the second half of last night's Bucks game. 125-108. Pacers roll up and dominate the Milwaukee Bucks for the majority of the night. Win quarter number 1, 30-26, 30-29 in the second, 32-28 in the third, 33-25 to close in the fourth. That is at every moment and every juncture having an answer for what the Bucks did. And there was a couple of different times, John Kuhn, Billy Schmidt, Armin Sarian, John, where you alluded to it, closing out quarters where the Bucks would have a run, even media timeouts. Similar, Armin, it gave me a feel of NC State Marquette Sweet 16, where you would have an answer early in the 4-minute segment before the next media timeout. And then DJ Horn came down, hit 2 ridiculous threes right before the shot clock. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, we started this down 7. How are we down 9 when I felt like we were in the midst of coming back?
Yeah. And it was minutes to get back to striking distance, and it was seconds to get back down 10. It was amazing how it happened.
Yeah, I had some flashbacks to that. Absolutely. It did feel that way. It felt like you kept pushing that ball up the hill, and you had to spend a lot of energy to get there. And as soon as you did, it fell back like that 10 feet so quick on you. And it was just that type of night. And it was that when you have like the Nemhards of the world, or what's his
Nemhard.
Nemhard just, dropping threes on you, and you say, what's going on here? Miles Turner, guys like that, it becomes tough because the ball kept rolling down the hill in the Bucks last night. And I don't know if maybe that's a product of age. Everyone, the most popular tweet my mentions last night back to me was, the Bucks are old and slow. The Bucks are old and slow. And yeah, they're probably older and slower than Indiana. Like that's probably true. But is that a product of the shooting? Is that a product of game planning? The Bucks just have to be better and more aware on how to stop transition. I think those are all things that Doc had to figure out.
No. It's a product of Dame Lillard's the only one who's not at least looking like he's old and slow.
Looking that way, yeah.
He's one of the older guys at 33.
Right. I know. But even Chris, it looks old and slow, right? He's just crafty enough that he can find those mid-range jumpers, when he gets down in there around the free throw line. Brook Lopez, even for shooting his threes last night, man, that drop coverage where he's somewhere in between the paint and the 3-point line, not really a factor in closing out, not really a factor in protecting the rim. It's a problem. It's a problem that the Bucks, without Giannis, are not going to be able to overcome against this young Pacers team, because as I look at it, we got 2 games. We got 2-game sample size in what this playoff series is going to be. And I think that the mean of this series is going to lean closer to game 2 than game 1. I mean, if you really look at it, the Pacers were complicit in
because it's a
1.
pair of blowout. It's a pair of blowout wins.
It is
a blowout win for either side.
It is. And the Milwaukee Bucks, for what it's worth, shot nearly the exact same as they shot in game 1. The Pacers shot vastly better. They shot closer to their regular season average in game 2. And I do think, and we don't know what's going to happen in the series. You never know. Sure. That's why they play the game. But I feel like game 2 looked more like what we're going to get out of the Pacers than what we're probably going to get, like we probably got in game 1.
Well, and the only reason I push back on that is I don't believe the Bucks supporting cast is going to go 1 for whatever from 3 outside of Brook Lopez and Dame.
100%. Do we expect Brook to go 6 for 7?
That's the other question.
I expect him to knock down 3 or 4. Yeah.
I mean, Dame got 35 and 34 in back-to-back games. I mean, we're going to need him to get 35 every game.
Yeah,
every single game.
But it's also, and this is where the old and slow Armin goes to. It looks a lot older and slower when the normal half-court game in the playoffs becomes much more of an up-and-down track meet.
Sure.
Like, that's where the awareness and understanding you got to be able to get back. You heard Doc say it a couple of times, fellas, we need to get back. And I believe it was Melanie Ricks on the Bally's broadcast when she was listening into the huddle. She said Giannis was the first cat that came into the huddle, said, fellas, they're playing faster than us.
Got to get back.
We got to get back in transition. You're going to have to find ways to be able to do that. And if that means Andre Jackson gets a couple of Derry Birds minutes, I'd be okay with that. If that means Malik Beasley sees more burn than AJ Green, I'd be okay with that. But you're going to need to be able to find a way to get back and eliminate that, because if it becomes, and it is what normally in the playoffs are, a half-court game, I still like the Bucks' chances either way.
I agree. I think they're a lot better in half court, and that's why I was confident coming into the series, because playoff games usually slow down and become half court. Obviously, the Indiana has an advantage when they run, but you have to be good at stopping that, and sometimes that's easier said than done if that's where a team has the advantage over you, but it can be done. Also, I think adjustments are going to be made on both sides. Indiana makes adjustments after the Bucks blow them out in game 1. They were going to make their adjustments. They did, and they worked for them. I think a lot of how we see these series does go to recency bias. These series change game to game when adjustments are made. So as much as it seems impossible to see something different than what we just saw, a lot of times something does change. How do we see this series if the Bucks did what they did game 2 and game 1 and it was reversed?
Jim Osarski asked Doc Rivers something similar to that, of the adjustments that you make after you win a game compared to the ones that you make when you lose. How do you not over adjust when you lose and just under adjust when you win, right? Like, how do you not just say, let's go see how they react to it again? And you got to make some adjustments, but he did say it's a little bit different when you know that you are in an uphill climb. John in Brookfield said, Kuhn is 100% right. This team looks old, slow, and past their prime. Cannot risk Giannis coming back. Have to find a way to move Chris, Brooke, Pat for some young talent, and have to hit on pick 21. Holy cow, first round pick that they're actually going to take. That'd be interesting.
That would be
Have
wild.
to restructure this roster around Dame and Giannis, get young, fast, athletic around those 2 stars. Big offseason for Horst. Have to pull off some young talent from Detroit, Atlanta, Houston, San Antonio, Portland, Utah. Chris is so done not winning with this roster as designed. I don't disagree in principle with it.
That's
It's
a checklist.
lot
That's like my honey-do list that Lindsay creates every weekend, where I go, okay, maybe by Sunday afternoon, I'll get to sit down and watch the Bucks game because I'll get all these accomplished.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're able to do it all in one weekend, that's a hell of a feat. Like, it's gonna be remarkable if they're able to completely overhaul with the extremely limited assets they have. Because if you're saying that Brooke can't do anything, so why don't you go get some of those younger players from Atlanta, bring them up here, and give them the old guy? Right? You do also have to convince the other team that they're getting a deal in here, and you don't have anything to sweeten it, right? Like, I mean, they don't have any assets around to get out of this second apron. They're going to, right? Like, they will reshape it, but it's going to be a lot easier said than, just move those guys and get some young players in here that can go up and down.
All right, I agree with everything you just said, Billy, but what irks me is why we're talking about offseason postmortem like right now. This is a first round of the playoffs, and it's a 1-1 series. Like, let's stay in the fight and get in the fight here. I understand why, and I know, like, here we go again. The sky is falling every time the Bucks lose a game. Every time the Bucks have 3 bad possessions, everybody, we're lost. We're done. We're cooked. We'll never win a game again. We got to trade everybody. We're gonna move to Louisville. This team's done.
Armin, this is an answer. This is an answer here. This is an answer here. They are addressing some of the factors that we saw last night, which contributed in the blowout loss. They are actually talking about what needs to change. And unfortunately, you can't change those things right now in the playoffs, is what they're saying. They are giving an answer to what we saw last night was a problem.
That's not an answer. That's not the answer to this series. The answer is not trade everybody. We can't trade everybody right now. We're in a playoff series with a bunch of guys that have won a championship. We're trying to find ways to win games here and to beat the Indiana Pacers in a 7-game series. The point was trade everybody. We're old and slow. We got to pull off some young talent. We got to hit on pick 20. That's offseason talk for me, John.
Well, if Giannis isn't in the lineup, let's not get crazy and say a bunch of guys that won a championship. Half this team did. The other half didn't. 2 of the starters last night didn't.
Brooke, Pat, Bobby. There's a group of guys. I understand not the whole team. We made some changes.
And if Giannis is not playing, you can't say with a bunch of guys that won a championship.
They're not as good without Giannis. I think we all know that, but I don't think it's impossible to win without Giannis. The Bucks did in game 1. They got to play better in game 3. The Bucks come out with a split in Indiana, good or bad, right?
Oh, that's good.
Great. That's great. So the Bucks have to win one of the next 2 games, and we're in pretty good position.
Trey told us yesterday that he came into the series saying, as long as the Bucks get a split at home, I'm going to be pretty happy.
So, except the split comes in a blowout game 1, and that's the worst type of split because you lose game 2 after you blew them out in game 1, thinking let's win another one. I understand that. It's human nature to think that way. And John, like I said, I don't materially disagree with all those comments. That we're getting old, that we have to hit on pick 21.
You disagree with the timing of it.
I don't think
you're
that's
like
the
James
right
in
time.
Wauwatosa that says, calm down. The series is not over.
It barely started. This is a 1-1. This is a 1-1 series right now. Obviously the Bucks are in worse position without Giannis. I agree with that.
No, this is uber exciting. I can't wait to go 7 games with Indiana in the first round. This is so incredible. It actually is. It actually is, because the Bucks right now, at least last night, looked slower and inferior to the Indiana Pacers. So now, you're naturally going to talk about, well, what happens if we do lose? What happens if we do? Well, here's the answers. You get younger, you get faster, you get more athletic. What happens? What happens if we start winning? Well, then we say, okay, maybe these guys have the fortitude. Maybe these guys have the grit to step it up and make some plays. It's clear as day. Even though they scored 1 point less last night than what they scored in game 1, the role players played much harder in game 1, much more efficient in game 1.
I'll give you the efficiency.
Well, okay, harder. Billy, how many?
Well, harder is just, it looks so much better when you're winning, right? Well, I mean, like it's easier to say they're playing harder when Billy, they got a 20-point lead.
You talked about getting out and running. There was one where Dame didn't even really turn around to see,
where the guy snuck behind him. Yeah.
So,
but Dame's not one of their role players. He's going to be one of their stars. Well, he's the guy.
You saw it out of the role players too, especially in that second quarter when Chris went down. They looked shell shocked. They looked shell shocked. That's when you need a guy. When Chris went down and was limping around, that's when you need a guy to make a big play, to step up, to be that energy, to be that emotion. And it looked like to me everybody was looking around at that point in time.
414-799-1973. 414 texter said simple. Indiana got confidence in the second half of game 1. And they said they got Dame and nothing else. Eric in the Prairie said, I've been a huge supporter of Chris Middleton, but I just don't think he's even healthy. He has the ability to be a difference maker anymore. Does he? Listen, I kind of do think so. But I mean, he had 23 and 10 in game 1, and it was one of the quietest 23s and 10s that you were going to be able to witness. Like, they're going to have to be able to force the issue, but him as the number 2 right now, you had questions about him being a good enough number 2 years ago before the injuries. If he's your third option, you can win it. You can be remarkably competitive. He's your number 2 option. It's going to be a lot more difficult. 414-799-1973. We continue this. How long can the Bucks roll without Giannis? Can they win this without? Can they win a game without Giannis? There's a whole lot of pessimism on this. NicoletLaw.com talking text line. We're walking you through it, picking up the pieces. It's 9 to noon on the game. Well, luckily there was one winner in the house last night. The fiance on Underdog Fantasy hit twice in the NBA Pick'em game. Pick between 2 and 5 players and you can win like her, not like me, who caught a couple of fat L's last night. The NBA playoffs, best way to stay in on the action, not only with Milwaukee Bucks games, but with all the NBA playoff games. All of a sudden, sitting in bed late at night, waiting up because had higher on Luka points. You have to continue to think about your higher or lower player projections and see if your picks hit. You can win up to 100 times your money. You pick between 2 to 5 players, build out your pick'em entry, and Underdog Fantasy is going to give you a chance to win real money. It's legal in Wisconsin. It's tons of fun to play along. And the best part is their app is remarkably easy to get started. Download the app, hit sign up, use promo code Billy, B-I-L-L-Y, put in your first deposit of 10 or more bucks up to 100, and they're going to match it up to $100. Plus, they're going to give you a mystery special pick to use on your first pick'em entry. I'm telling you, the Underdog Fantasy app is going to be one of the easiest apps you use on your phone. Underdog Fantasy, promo code Billy, B-I-L-L-Y. First deposit, 10 or more bucks up to 100, match, plus your special pick. Underdog Fantasy. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Okay, my man Tyrese Halliburton had to have swallowed a kazoo there in the middle of that answer.
It's like you remember when you had your buddies and you had the helium balloon and everything,
right? He just suck a quick balloon quick. I really think that it's going to be a really exciting Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Now they are rabid Pacers fans in Indiana. That's for sure. They love their Indiana Pacers. What else are you going to do in Indiana? Not a whole hell of a lot.
Tell them.
I mean, look, I don't know. State of basketball. There's not much more else to do.
You're right.
So you might as well enjoy Pacers basketball because, until Anthony Richardson plays 4 more games this year, and then you're stuck with Joe Flacco for a couple of games. Like it's a tough existence. So you might as well enjoy it. Might as well soak it in. You loved Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
It's a great arena. I love Gainbridge. Love the way it looked, the way it felt. It's a great arena to watch basketball. When the shake machine wasn't working, I wasn't happy about that.
Yeah, you're not
I did
pleased.
get some soft serve finally. It's a good arena, and yes, Indiana fans love basketball. We understand that. That being said, I mean, he wants to throw some shade on our fans. I understand the gamesmanship here, what he's doing here. Like, come on. I mean,
very understandable when after he added in what his younger brother reportedly experienced at Fiserv Forum. So I imagine he had some for Milwaukee. What the hell? I mean, like, can we figure this out? How on earth are we with that situation in our hearts? We can't have that.
Be better.
We got to be better than that.
Armin, you talking about Cambridge. Is it better to watch a basketball game than Pfizer?
Well, that's a good question, and it's I've been to a college game there, right?
Wow,
NCAA.
he didn't say no.
Tournament game.
He did not say no.
No, I didn't, because Fiserv's a great building. It's a great arena. It's a beautiful place, but the vibe has always not been the kind of the gritty, like kind of the barn is shaking vibe that I used to feel in Bradley Center. Now, people have come up with a lot of reasons for that, one way or the other. I did think the crowd showed up, at least on TV, in game 1, from what I could tell.
It was
Billy,
loud in game 1.
You were there,
yeah.
So game 1, I think they made their statement. Bucks fans, crowds at the games at Fiserv have always been kind of more hit or miss. Like I said, I've never seen a Pacers game at Gainbridge. I think it's probably a different crowd than an NCAA tournament game. So I don't know how to react to that. But I kind of would like to see, the Fiserv crowds get a little more energy, a little more excitement. I think
I'd like you to join one.
I'd like to be there as well. I hadn't had a chance to go yet. Hopefully game 5, the excitement of the Bucks and their improvement as a team, as a franchise, as an organization, also create more interest, higher prices. So I understand that's part of it too. It's easy to have like the crowds, the Bradley Centers when you have.
Yeah, that's it's. Oh, thank you.
A lot of filibustering.
Thank you, Mr. Senator.
Sometimes they don't.
Thank you. You don't want to answer the question.
It doesn't feel the same sometimes.
DOC.
It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't feel the same sometimes. I'll admit that.
You also get this enjoyment if you're the Pacers, right? Their team hasn't been to the playoffs in a little while.
That's a big factor.
It's way more fun when your team is getting good than where you are right now, where it's trepidation and nervousness when you hit the postseason instead of just straight excitement. Let's go to the talk portion of the NicolaLaw.com talk and text line, 414-799-1973. That's where we find our friend Ram before Match Diamond joins the conversation. Ram, what's on your mind?
Hey, I was watching the game last night, and thanks for taking my call. The one thing I noticed when you look at because Pascal scoring versus Dame, and I'm a hooper. I played at the college level also. I coach still. But when you shooting jumpers and you get the long rebounds, you don't get the 50-50 ball, and they turn into layups, it's different than when you taking shots inside the paint, you got a chance to get the rebound. That was one area that I noticed in both games. So Pascal's 37 points had a higher impact on them winning because, he's not shooting a lot of threes. So if you are going to shoot threes, you got to win the 50-50 ball game. And that's one thing when you guys are listening to you speak on the age of the Bucks and them being a little slower. So if you're going to shoot, you got to maybe have DeAndre Jackson out there. So the ball come off long, boom, you got to get this rebound. Because if you don't get the rebound, you don't get back. It's going to be a layup drill. And the other thing I say is I like Doc and I like Rick Carlisle. Both of them very good coaches. But I think right now the edge probably has to go to the Pacers coach because Doc came mid-season.
Totally.
We can't expect him to pull gold and silver out of the hat when he didn't have a training camp. But he has done very good with the situation in front of him, He's trying to get the best out of the players that he have on the court. But like you said, the role players, they gotta the Bucks role players about it. They gotta step up because right now the energy seems like it's on the side of the Pacers.
Hey, that's
Appreciate
a great
the call.
phone call. You made a lot of good points there. I would say this too, to piggyback off of what he said right there. Pascal Siakam, he's outscoring Dame in this series, and we know what Dame is doing. And with that being said, no Giannis, no winning the series. That's all I'm trying to get at here with this whole thing. I think Giannis comes back, it changes everything. But do you want Giannis back? Can you trust Giannis if he says, I'm good? Do you trust that, knowing what you know about the soleus and the potential Achilles being at risk with a situation like this? Man, the role players, can they play as good as they played in game one? Yeah. But again, in game one, the Pacers were complicit. It's all about
The Bucks
Giannis
weren't
in this
complicit
thing.
last night.
The Bucks, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Look at
okay.
the shooting percentages. Look at the shooting percentages as a team. Very similar to game one, if not better in some instances.
Yeah, I disagree. I mean, like I look at the rest of the supporting cast. If you take Dame out of the equation, I mean, like they were putrid. Bobby Portis was 6 of 16 last night.
Oh, yeah.
And he missed a dunk and was asking and begging for them to think that he got blocked.
Yeah, I know he can play better than that.
That to me is a difference. Last player to open a postseason with 2 35-point, 10 rebound performances was Wilt Chamberlain.
Mm-hmm.
Pascal Siakam has done that the last 2 nights. You can't let Pascal Siakam look like prime Larry Bird. All right, we're gonna have to find a way for Pascal Siakam to not be Reggie Miller.
And
in this series.
in that way is Giannis.
Yeah, I mean,
yes, I agree.
There's a good that's an easy person to be able to be the one that ends up D'ing him up. 414-799-1973. Matt Schneidman flips the conversation to the NFL draft. We're 1 day away. He has named his final projection for the Green Bay Packers at 25, and it's picking at 25. We'll get into all of it coming up next. Matt Schneidman joins 9 to noon, hour 2, right after this. Hour 2, 9 to noon, brought to you by Happy Place Hemp and happyplacehemp.com. Everybody relax. It's finally draft week. We're going to get the answers that you've been wanting. Who are the green and gold going to pick up? Well, you should pick up some green for the weekend and enjoy the draft on a whole different level at Happy Place Hemp and happyplacehemp.com. Using promo code Billy, you'll get 25% off at checkout every single time, or go visit them in store in Muskego. Tell Rob and Chris I say hello. Chop it up about the draft with them, and walk out with all the answers and all the CBN CBD gummies you need. Sleepy Time gummies if you don't like round one's prediction and take. So then come rounds 2 and 3, you're rested and rejuvenated for the Packers to take not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 guys that you wanted them to get, because they're going to answer and make all your dreams come true
11.
at happyplacehemp.com.
11 guys.
I was just talking about Friday night, but yeah. I mean, 4 picks on Friday night. I don't know that they end up taking, did they end up with just 11 picks? Goody sounded like he might have been interested in trying to go back, trying to find some rooms around. Matt Schneidman of The Athletic joins us now, fresh out of the gym, looking extremely swole, and more importantly, rocking a fantastic mustache that if you are not joining us on X or on YouTube, you're missing out on. Matt, elite stash. How we feeling one day away from the NFL draft?
Good. I always love the draft. I get to spend a lot of time with my colleagues. It's the best day for food spreads at Lambeau Field.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like the draft. It's entertainment watching the draft, and I can enjoy the first 5.5 hours of it before the Packers pick tomorrow night.
Tell me about this food spread. What are they going to have in there? What do they have? The brats, of course, macaroni and cheese, baked macaroni and cheese.
Got to have the pack and cheese. Come on now.
Yeah, what else? What else?
Yeah, I love a good breaded mac and cheese. They always have a good salad, some good meat, normally pulled pork. You know, it's pretty good. But I wanted to start. I'm going to give each of you one guess.
Best spread of the year.
Where my car is parked right now. Where I am.
Panera.
Lambeau Field.
The IHOP on Oneida.
Oh, that's a good one.
All incorrect.
Oh, I see the background.
Do you? I didn't even.
There we go. Hitting a Dragon Link machine on a Wednesday morning. That's what I'm talking about, Schneidman. I love that.
I have a couple wagers to place for tonight. So
smart man.
I didn't notice it.
That's bad that I recognize the outside of the United Casino. But you know, listen,
it's funny.
It is what it is. We understand. We know our strengths. We know our weaknesses.
That is great that you did. I wouldn't have recognized that. That's pretty funny.
So, Matt, let's get to the latest NFL beat writer mock draft. One day away. You guys compile all of these, all your beat writers at theathletic.com, and take selections. Now, I don't know how the trades work, because there's one right in front of the Green Bay Packers for Kansas City going up and grabbing an offensive lineman. There's a lot of offensive linemen going in this mock, and your selection is a name that, at least in the offensive line category, Packers fans have been somewhat recognizable with, of Graham Barton.
Yeah, he has gone earlier in a lot of mock drafts I've seen. He was still there at 25 for me. Tyler Guyton is another guy I think they could target at 25 there. He was still on the board in that mock draft. It depends on what they're going to do with Zach Tom, because if Zach Tom moves to center, they probably don't need a Graham Barton. If Zach Tom stays at right tackle, a selection of a guy like Graham Barton would be more likely. You know, they liked a guy in Zach Tom who played left tackle and center at Wake Forest. Graham Barton played left tackle and center at Duke. The Packers have an immediate need at right guard, or at least a need for competition with Sean Ryan. And then if they keep Josh Myers at center, Josh Myers is entering the final year of his contract. We talked about this last week. So they could use a guy on that interior. And who knows, maybe they even think Graham Barton could play at tackle, even if he's better suited for inside in the NFL. But yeah, you know, Daniel Jeremiah tweeted this morning that based on his last couple phone calls, he thinks a lot of teams are going to trade up for offensive tackles in this draft. I know Graham Barton's technically not an NFL offensive tackle. At least that's not where the projection has him. But I could see Goody getting up for one of those top tackles, you know, whether it's Fashanu, Fuaga, or, you know, Amarius Mims or Tyler Guyton. I think that run on offensive tackles could come a little bit earlier than the range the Packers are picking in.
if people are trading up for quarterbacks, which is what we're hearing right now, and if people could potentially be trading up for tackles right now, isn't there an advantage to staying put and getting, let's say, an edge rusher who just happens to fall into your lap, a highly ranked edge rusher, maybe a highly ranked cornerback or a safety to that extent? When other people are jumping up to reach for these spots, that's where the Packers have always, their history says, sit pat and take the best available. And a lot of times you can strike gold.
That's a great point, because if, let's say, 6 quarterbacks go in the first 20 picks, with Bo Nix and Michael Penix included in the top 6, and then a bunch of offensive tackles go, and Goody says, the price is a little too rich, because maybe they'd have to get up to, I don't know, 18, 17. Then if that pushes a corner like, I don't know, Terrion Arnold from Alabama back into the 20-21 range, or an edge rusher, or heck, one of the top receivers, who knows? I had this discussion with someone the other day, and I'm not going to say who. It's not someone within the organization, just another one of my colleagues. I don't know if they want me outing them. What if the Packers think that they have
that means he probably has a radio show.
Is it that serious?
That means it's Rob Demovsky.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was thinking the other one that probably has a radio show.
It's most definitely Rob Demovsky.
Yeah. No. What if the Packers think they have a lot of really good receivers, but not someone who can be that bona fide number one? We've talked on this show plenty of times. That's not a bad thing. You don't need to have, that stereotypical feature receiver like a Devontae Adams if you have 5 guys who are number 2s, and it looks like the Packers might have that. What if the Packers want that feature guy, and a guy like Brian Thomas from LSU or Roma Dunze drops into the 18-19 range, 20 range, and Goody says, okay, it was too rich to trade up for an offensive tackle, but hey, if a receiver's there, why not? I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. And John brought up a good point. Guys that are probably in the top 15 of some big boards might fall if teams are, quote unquote, reaching for need with offensive tackles. But the Packers could also be one of those teams that, quote unquote, reaches for an offensive tackle.
Yeah, it's considered a really generational tackle draft. Like at the top, in the top 25 picks, like these are going to be dudes that can be real focal points throughout it. The wide receiver one's fascinating. I don't know if we can somehow cook up a Laramie Tunsil situation for Malik Neighbors or Roma Dunze to fall down to 1920, but that might be the only way that ends up happening. But Matt, interesting enough, this gets sent out by ESPN. Hembo, one of their producers, put up a spreadsheet of the hit rates and hit rate, meaning you sign a second contract with that team, is the definition of it for first round picks. Center, offensive tackle, and guard all over 50%, everybody else under, and wide receiver all the way at the bottom. That seems tough to me though, because we only seem to focus on the ones that hit, like Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, but those guys also haven't signed second contracts, right? So can that be somewhat cooked up yet, because those guys haven't hit the re-up stage yet? They haven't gotten to their extension eligible year quite yet, when the wide receivers that have come out the last 3 years have been far and away kind of better than what we've seen the product be.
Sure, absolutely. And I think you might have said it, but those are just first round picks at that stage.
Yeah.
From 2000 to 2019. I did see that. That's interesting, because it kind of goes along with the Packers philosophy that, okay, maybe you don't draft a wide receiver in the first round, but then with offensive tackles, you're incentivized to draft one, and the Packers typically don't, not since 2011 at least. So every team has their process. The Packers kind of have a different process here. They have their position groups that they typically target in the first round, and wide receiver and offensive tackle are not those. And those, obviously, like you said, Billy, are on 2 different ends of the spectrum in that chart there. But I don't think Brian Gutekunst is looking at that chart and being like, oh, the hit rate for wide receivers around the league isn't great. I shouldn't draft one, or draft an offensive tackle since other teams are hitting on them. They have their process. The Packers have been kind of run similarly for the past couple decades, and they're going to stick to it. And that's kind of what Brian Gutekunst was talking about the other day when he spoke with us, is the draft is the lifeblood of this organization. We have guys who have been around here a long time, been trained in this process. We're going to stick to it. and hopefully get some guys that can start and some guys that can keep their Super Bowl window open for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, the draft is so hard to predict as a general manager. The draft is impossible to pick for you and I on the outside. And I'm curious, you talk about hit rate on draft picks. What's your hit rate when you look at a team, and you've been covering several drafts now? How often do you get something correct? And I'm going to assume a good hit rate is 300, like in baseball. You get one out of,
Yeah, it's Hall of Fame
It's
numbers.
hard. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard.
You get 3 out of it. And I'm not talking about the person. I'm just talking about the position. How often have you been able to target in on a position that a team has been able to get in one of these rounds as you mock this thing up?
That's interesting. I'd have to go back and look at that. The Athletic likes us doing multiple mock drafts, and sometimes I stick with the same guys. Sometimes I go different guys just to make sure, this is a joke, what I'm about to say, but I like to cover all my bases. So
yeah, you spread the bet around.
Good one.
I got 6, 7 guys where I can say, ooh, I had that one.
Exactly.
A
Exactly.
couple years ago, one of my mock drafts had the Packers taking A.J. Dillon and John Runyon, and that happened, obviously. Dane Brugler's first mock draft in 2021 had them taking Eric Stokes at 29, so that hit. I'd have to look because I had 3 mock drafts this year over the last, month and a half, 2 months, and I did different things in each one. I stuck generally with the same position groups, at least, not always an offensive tackle in the first, sometimes a corner, but generally the same position groups in the first couple of rounds. So I'm sure I'll get 1 or 2 right out of, I don't know, the what is it, 33 picks I made over my 3 mock drafts, 30 picks I made. Because in my most recent one, I gave up a 4th and a 6th to trade up from 25 to 21 to take Amarius Mims. So that's my final prediction, even though in my beat writer mock draft, I did something different. So you see, I'm just trying to cover all my bases.
I like
Isn't
it.
this like brackets
Big
in the
fan of
NCAA
that.
tournament where you can pick
Yeah.
like 6 or 7 different ones?
It's having 4 fantasy football teams.
It's having 4 fantasy teams are doing that. I mean, it's a lot of
Why
fun.
have 4 when you can have 8?
There you go. There you go. Exactly.
I always just do 1 bracket and 1 fantasy football team.
I'm the
much.
same way. Right.
But those are all under your control. These mock drafts, at least the beat writer mock drafts, are not always under your control. So I think the first 2 beat writer mock drafts, I took Wiggins, the corner from Clemson, and I don't believe he was available in the 3rd one. So we'll see. They're going to take one of the 7 prospects. Actually, they probably won't take one of the 7 prospects I have them taking in the first round. But
Can we hear all 7?
Completely off the board.
Can we hear all 7 just so we have names
you know them off
and
the
we
top?
can fact check?
I'm gonna try and remember them. Amarius Mims was one of them.
Yep.
Nate Wiggins, Cooper DeJean,
Mm-hmm.
Graham Barton. Who else?
I want to say you had Guyton maybe at one point.
No, I don't think I
No?
did.
You probably know better than Matt. Billy is.
All right, so you got
Well,
2
I'm
line,
reading 900 of these
I know.
different things. So
You
you
got-
see all of them.
so you got 2 linemen and 2 corners going in the first round out of the 4 that you named so far, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I
What would-
think.
And you said wide receiver would surprise you. Is there anything else throughout this draft that would just knock your socks off, or have you just learned with Goody expect the unexpected?
I've learned to expect somewhat of the unexpected. Edge rusher wouldn't knock my socks off, but it would surprise me. We know that he likes taking edge rushers only to sit them at number 4 on the depth chart and kind of slow burn their development like he did with Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness. But even so, they don't need, like, in those situations, Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness were going to soon accelerate into a much bigger role. Like, Rashawn Gary's going to be here for another couple of years. Preston Smith might only be here for another year. Lucas Van Ness and Rashawn Gary are going to be your 1-2 for the foreseeable future. Do you want to spend a first-round pick on a guy who's still going to be a reserve by year 3? Whereas, Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness, not reserves by year 3, really. Zadarius Smith. Yeah, that was kind of when he was injured. So Rashawn Gary wasn't a reserve. But I think they still do try and get an edge rusher because of Anagbari's injury in the first 2 days. I don't think it would be in the first 2 rounds, but I think corner, safety, offensive. Here's another thing. Safety.
Here we go.
It's not a big safety draft. Like,
Yeah.
It's not a top
Not in
heavy.
the first round.
Yeah, no one with
Yeah.
first round grades.
I don't think people would be thrilled with a safety in the first round, even though that's the Packers' biggest position of need, you could argue.
Right, or even like a position that, for obvious reasons, we never see in the first round is running back. Like, would it be crazy if the Packers made a move on a
I
running
gotta
back?
dunk on the running backs. in this draft.
It's
Come
not that
on.
I'm against the running backs. It's just not a great running back draft. People don't draft them early anyway. But it would be a surprise that I could see it. Wow, that actually happened, where the Packers made a move, maybe not first round, but traded up to earlier in the draft. Maybe Eddie Lacy position, late second, to get a running back, because that is sort of a future position that they're going to want to start developing. They're going to have to get running backs at some point. So you might say to yourself, wow, a running back.
I wonder how much what the Packers have done in past drafts kind of affects them this time around.
Sure,
And
'cause
I
it's different.
what I mean by that is Goody's not going to go into this draft and be like, okay, we're not taking an offensive tackle for the first 3 rounds because we found good ones like Bakhtiari and Zach Tom in the 4th round. That's not how he's going to do it. But I wonder when it comes to something like running back, if he's like, A.J. Dillon in the 2nd round didn't really work out. Aaron Jones in the 5th did, so we can wait. I wonder if that kind of seeps into their mind. I would be floored. That's a good point, Armin. I would be floored if they took a running back in the 1st round or the 2nd round.
I'd be too, but
I think the earliest they look at that position, just because of how much they value having 2 capable running backs, is late 3rd with 88 or 91.
I think the
That
Buffalo
91
pick.
pick coming from the Bills. Because listen, A.J. Dillon probably isn't going to be a long-term complement to Josh Jacobs. Jacobs is going to be here for at least 2 years. They don't need a feature back right now, but maybe they say, okay, let's target a guy late in the 3rd who can really be a solid number 2 for us for the next 2 years. And maybe if Josh Jacobs doesn't pan out for 3-4 years down the road, he can take over when he's, 23, 24 years old.
Yeah, and that seems to be around the time that the run will end up going on running backs. It seems like a lot of people have them in the later stages of the top 100 prospects, and that late 3rd round could be where you see a Benson from Florida State, who would be a more physically imposing cat that they could go with. Matt, what's your favorite rumor you're hearing? Now, I'm not saying like someone's calling you and say, Matt Schneidman, this is what is going to happen at 5. But like yesterday, online was hot when it went from 100 to 1 to 6 to 1 for the Chargers to take a quarterback with their first pick, and people thinking maybe they're going to trade Justin Herbert, draft JJ McCarthy. What's your favorite one that you're hearing right now as we lead up just within 30 some hours away?
You took it right out of my mouth. I saw something on Twitter, and by rumor, it could literally just be just like a random account or a reporter who's just throwing stuff out there who's not well connected. That is my favorite one. That the Vikings should trade. I actually heard this one to the Commanders. The Vikings should trade Justin Jefferson to the Commanders to get to number 2 and draft the quarterback of their choice, not named Caleb Williams. So then another one, you said it, Billy, is the Chargers trading Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh drafting JJ McCarthy at 5 if he doesn't go at 4, and then Justin Herbert going to, I don't know, whoever.
That's fast. That's fascinating. Can I guess just one of the two? Oh, those are tonight investments that you're making here, correct? Because Byron Murphy first defensive player.
I'm not betting on the draft. I'm not allowed to bet on the NFL. As someone who covers the NFL, you need to throw that reminder out there if my bosses are listening.
Good reminder. Yep. Good clarification.
What are yours, Billy?
Byron Murphy first defensive player taken. Right now, some places have it 225. Other places like Potawatomi Hotel Casino Sportsbook, 4 to 1.
You can get plus 50,000 on the Packers taking a kicker, punter, or long snapper in the first round at Potawatomi. So if you
like lighting money on fire, give that a shot.
Giving away $5.
See what happens.
Last time a kicker was taken in the first round, Sebastian Janikowski.
I think was the first. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen,
I covered him.
Maybe
Oakland.
How was he to cover? Good cover. Like
good interview.
I never talked to him. He was just on the there, and then he got injured, so he didn't actually play. And the kicker that season ended up being Giorgio Tavecchio.
I love that. So let's get down to brass tacks. What are the Schneids can't misses here? Because we know your mother doesn't listen to this show.
She doesn't.
So we can hear a couple of those. And 2-parter. How did the draft spectacular go yesterday at 6:00 on the Matt Schneidman show?
It went well. You know, it was good to see Doug Russell again. Had a couple guests on the show talking a lot of draft. My key card didn't get me into the WNFL studio. I
Tough
guess
start.
they just forgot I had a show, which is fine. I don't blame them.
Sure.
I haven't done it in a while. But my stone cold locks that I'm not betting on are that what there's got to be an over under on quarterbacks in the first round at 5.5.
Yeah, I saw it at 4.5 yesterday and may have invested a little bit more than I
May have
probably
touched
should have.
on that one.
but
Yeah.
Too much.
I would say the over under should be 5.5 in the first 20 picks, and I would go over that.
Yep.
I would say Packers position or side of the ball on first round pick. I'm gonna go defense.
Yep. Edge rusher plus 750 right now.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm thinking corner because, you know, now John's in my head. I think some corners might start to fall because of this run on offensive tackles. And they say, you know what? Carrington Valentine was good for us, but he was kind of thrust in there out of necessity instead of preference because of the Rasul Douglas trade. So if they can get Jair Alexander and one of the top 3 corners in the draft, and then have Xavier McKinney and, I don't know, a round 2 safety, Jeff Havley could be cooking with gas.
This is
It's very tempting.
the
Yeah.
disrespect on this talking text line
It's
for our
coming.
guy Matt Schneidman is unreal. The guy is not AI. You cannot grow that kind of a mustache being an AI action figure. There's just no way.
That's a really good mustache growth. What's that?
What'd they say on the Nicolay talking text line?
Nice work there, Matt. Doesn't Nerd Boy just go with whatever the computer says for the Packers pick? That was Frank.
Nerd.
What
boy.
I think
Yeah.
I think he means me. Because he's been calling me Nerd Boy for a while. I don't think he means Matt.
I am so sorry,
I
Matt.
think he
I
means me,
apologize.
which is
Oh my
fine.
Goodness.
Which is fine.
Wow, I was handing the stray right off to
I'm just
Matt. It
being-
was going to you.
Just being honest, based on his past texts, I think he means me, and that's fine. I don't know what the computer says, whatever that means. But no, it's a good mustache. I think that works better for you than the full beard, to be honest with you. And that's not a rip on your beard. It's
No, but
just-
the mustache is an elite look for Matt.
It's just a
Yeah.
better look for
It's a
you.
good one.
More of a hassle to maintain.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Matt Jr. said trade up for Harrison Jr. Could you fathom somebody getting up there? We're sitting waiting with bated breath, thinking they're going to draft McCarthy, and somebody does make the Julio Jones like move to go up and get Marvin Harrison Jr.
Billy, you see these 4 people on this StreamYard call right now? This would be the offensive line depth chart if they had to trade up to get Marvin Harrison Jr. They would have no picks left.
We just got to cook up one of those gas mask pictures. Somebody post the Laramie Tunzel and just say it's
gotta
Marvin
happen.
Harrison Jr.
Gotta happen.
Is that ethical? Can we do that?
I don't think
Probably
so.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was
probably
a
not.
time
Just
when
don't do it from the station account. It'll be okay.
there was a time when nobody thought Marvin Harrison would last past 3 in the middle of the college football
Yeah.
season, and it's this fall in love season. Everyone starts to fall in love with their quarterbacks. You know,
I do just love the idea that McAfee's thrown out there that Jim Irsay walks in and says, "You're trading for Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't care what we're doing. We're going and trading for Marvin Harrison Jr. Go bring him home." That would just be chef's kiss. Matt, I can't wait for all the coverage. Cannot wait for all the write-ups, breakdowns you have all weekend long. And excited to see you tomorrow. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys. Hey, Armin, I know you're probably the biggest Brewers fan on here. Can you tell them to maybe win so we can get a competitive game on Sunday against the Yankees?
yeah, the Brewers
This
are
guy.
the Brewers are what, like 14-7 or 14-8?
14-8.
Yeah, 14 and 8.
Place.
They're doing fine. I mean, yes, they lost a couple.
Hey,
to
just because our
Pittsburgh.
manager doesn't get thrown out for no reason.
Yeah, competitive game. Like
Yeah.
you're making it sound like we're some schlubs right now out here.
You get a yes yet?
At 16-8.
You get a yes yet for your passenger princess
Yeah,
on the way
who
down
you-
to Milwaukee on
Who
Sunday?
you taking with you?
I technically
Is
not.
this your first Brewers game?
No, I actually drove down to Milwaukee 2 years ago for a Brewers Yankees game that I went to by myself.
It's I like
This is gonna
that.
be way more fun.
It's committed fandom right
Yep.
there.
I'm going with John. I don't know if I'm driving down with him because
Go.
he has another obligation on Sunday morning, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. All right. I like that. I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there. And maybe like the third inning or so. I
Yeah.
love that.
It means
Hey, he's
Oh.
going to church. Come on. What about you, man? He's going to
You know,
church.
I don't drink often at all, but I was, maybe gonna crack a couple in the suite just for the occasion, but
Sure.
I can't because I'm driving. I don't even like to have one drink when I'm driving, so Shame on John for not letting me enjoy a couple Miller Lights in the suite.
Armin's got a spare
Well,
bedroom for
I
you.
like how you just assumed I was driving you down and you weren't driving me down. I mean, we didn't even have this conversation.
I can't wait for this to
Well,
happen.
we didn't have it because we're driving separately.
I mean, he got the tickets, John. Least he can do is wheel over there, right?
Why don't you guys both
I
Uber?
might have said, Sunday morning, John, my car's not starting. You think you can come scoop me?
Sure.
That was no.
And it'd be very believable.
Yeah, our bet was that you were just going to have a bunch of stuff in your car since you're moving, and that was your way of getting John to drive. But you
That's
work out with car trouble. Much better idea.
One heck of a road trip. Can you guys roll tape during that trip when you're driving together
Have
and just
to.
make it the next brick in the stick?
We are driving together. John is
Well-
way more of a celebrity than I am, so he has a appearance, I believe, on Sunday morning.
Let's go. That's
No,
what I'm talking
that
about.
happens. That's how things go sometimes.
Hey,
It's
you
just the way.
one time
Everybody
you'll
loves
get
a
there.
good parlay. You got to parlay these things.
That's what I'm talking about. Couple of picks. You'll enjoy that one, Matt. We'll enjoy your take on the picks coming up this weekend. Take it easy, man.
Thanks, guys.
Matt Schneidman of The Athletic, theathletic.com. Go follow him on Twitter, as the kids are calling it X these days. It's at Matt Schneidman, and he will have all the coverage you need this weekend, along with us, as the NFL draft coverage on the game is unmatched, presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. More on where we'll be and how you can watch the draft with us coming up in our next segment. And I got a couple of guys that you might want to maybe drive over and enjoy. I got a couple of players that if they fall to the Packers at 25 and they don't take them, I will overreact extremely with my man Wayne Larrivee. We'll get into some of those. It's 9 to noon on the game.
John Kuhn here for Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And you could take some time right now and help us help you turn your ordinary space into something extraordinary. And that's with brand new Pella Windows and Doors. The luxurious look, sleek design, and custom colors available are guaranteed to give your home an extra pop so that you can entertain all of your friends and keep you comfortable while you're doing it. It's truly the best of both worlds. And at Pella, we see windows differently. We have the highest rated energy efficient products and a complete range of durable, functional, and high quality products that bring the best out of your home. Plus, perfect windows and doors have never been easier to get. Right now, you get 0% interest for up to 5 years, or pay no down payment, no interest, and no payments whatsoever for 2 years if you book by May 10th. That is right, the deal of the century. Get 0% interest for up to 60 months, or no down payment, no interest, and no payments whatsoever for up to 24 months. But you got to book by May 10th. Pella's rated #1 by Milwaukee homeowners as the window brand that stands behind their products. So take ownership of your living space and make it a place worth living in once again with Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Visit PellaWI.com and tell Gina Della that John Kuhn sent you. Certain restrictions apply. See Chevron for details.
Tomorrow is the day when the NFL draft finally gets here, and you can have some drafts with us as the game's NFL draft coverage presented by Buffalo Wild Wings, unmatched. And they got cold ones at Buffalo Wild Wings. And we're going to be at Buffalo Wild Wings across the state watching the draft with you. Drew and KB are going to start at 3, Highway 100 in West Dallas. Yeah, they'll probably start at 3. And they'll probably start drinking at 3. Yeah, I would be stunned if they didn't. And then starting at 5:30, the rest of the game staff at Buffalo Wild Wings across the state, like Armin Sarian, star of what will be the Zabin Butch show at the Calumet Street in Appleton.
They got fried pickles there? I heard they do.
They do. Good ones.
They're coming
More importantly,
to my table.
You're probably going to be taking a lot of people's pictures with Brian Butch. Like I just assume
that's Appleton.
That turns into a Butchie autograph signing.
I think that's why Armin got the invite to that.
I got the call because like
Zabe was like, and the funny thing is Zabe's not going to take any pictures because that's why you're getting him.
Even though he's going to tell you, cares more about it.
But he's going to tell you how you took every picture wrong the entire time.
Armin, frame it this way. What about the lighting? Armin, what did I tell you about the lighting? Frame it this way. And remember, Butchie's taller.
What's your aperture on there?
And you can't go horizontal because it's vertical because Butchie's a foot taller than everybody else.
Taking pictures with a phone. What are you doing? You didn't bring a camera?
What are you doing, Armin? First of all, what do you got working? Armin, is this a Canon 9600, Megavax, whatever? I don't know, making stuff up. That you're right. That's how the conversation goes. Like, you know what, Zabe? They just wanted a snapshot.
They just wanted a quick picture with Butch.
All right. They wanted a quick picture with Butch, and they wanted to share memory about how they remembered him dominating Appleton East.
Yeah.
In not 2000.
Because they were also Terrors.
Yeah. Well, the West was the Terrors. That's where he went.
No, I was saying they were also Appleton West Terrors. They were remembering their moments beating Appleton. Sorry, I apologize. I got your point.
No, you're right. You're right. So that's what they want. They want to talk about, Mishicot or whoever's around there.
Just be better taking the photos and being a little more aware than our guy Ludwig was this weekend at the Wisconsin Athletic Hall of Fame ceremony.
Uh-oh, what happened there? I didn't hear about this.
Him and his plus one had were looking to take a photograph after, right? Trying to capture the moment. Yes, he did.
Ooh, okay, Luddy.
Found a really, really nice lady out front that was willing to take their picture. Happened to be 6-time Olympic medalist Bonnie Blair.
Oh,
who they asked to take the picture of them.
Are you kidding me? That really happened?
Yeah, that happened.
Best part is Bonnie's absolutely happy to do
the nicest human being ever, and she'd be totally. Yeah, let me take a couple.
Nicest normal person. That's actually the perfect person.
Hold on. Let me get one on portrait mode because this is a really good look. The only human being that would do that in the world of sports at her level would be Bonnie Blair.
Oh my gosh! And he probably didn't know. He had no clue. He didn't know.
Luckily, Heller was behind him to say Ludwig.
That was nice. Bonnie Blair.
Nice job. 6-time Olympic medalist.
Nice job. Why don't you ask her about her McDonald's commercial? That she used to have.
How many times have you asked her about it?
Oh, the Bonnie Blair bacon double. I only wish I could still order that. You can't though. Unfortunately, they don't have it anymore. And I asked.
That's a miss. A miss. You'll have to make it your own. But listen, they will do whatever you want to the wings. Also, great burgers at Buffalo Wild Wings.
They do.
It's always slept on. Their burgers are fantastic. So Zabe Butch and Armin up at the Calumet Street location in Appleton. Mike Heller and Nick Bruzewitz on location on campus at UW-Madison. They will be on University Ave. Great Buffalo Wild Wings. Turns into a sports book, and that place gets live. Also, our guy John Papadopoulos, going to be up in La Crosse area at the Onalaska location. Myself, Wayne Larrivee, inside of Lambeau Field, 1919 Kitchen and Tap. That's tomorrow. All our coverage starts at 5:30. We'll take it the rest of the way at 6 to 10, and hopefully talking about a Packers selection that could, and John, thinking about a lot of what we talked about with Matt Schneidman there, you mentioned edge rusher, and you are right in my wheelhouse of thinking that with all of the offensive linemen going, the rush to get quarterbacks, it seems like 5 to 6 could go in the top 15, 16 picks. You could be sitting here with Jared Verse from Florida State, one of the edge rushers coming here. Latu from UCLA, who probably is the best, but at one point his doctors at Washington wouldn't clear him with a neck injury. So like you're going to see a lot of medicals go through, but there are some talented players that could be sliding back at some pretty premier positions for the Packers at 25.
And I am not against an edge rusher in the first round that is going to sit maybe on first and second down because of Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Preston Smith. but he's going to be thrown into that rotation. We've talked about this to exhaustion in the past, that Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary only played about 60 to 65% of the snaps together at the same time. That means at least one sub was in there. And then, they like to rotate guys there to keep them fresh, to keep them fired. Now, we got a new defensive coordinator. How's that going to work with Jeff Hafley? But, man, you have guys that can get after a quarterback. You got guys that can wreak havoc. You want as many of them as you can. And who's to say you can't put a sub package together where you have 3 or 4 of them out there on the field at the same time on third down? You get the third and long. Why do edge rushers only have to rush on the edge? Right?
Yeah.
Za'Darius Smith had great success rushing interiorly against centers, so you can do that as well. And I think that's where Rashawn Gary's getting to now. He's getting to the point where we can start expanding his game, opening this thing up with this new second contract, big contract. Let's let him eat. But the only way you can do that is if you have somebody you can put on the outside also in his place to wreak havoc on the quarterback as well. I'm not against that. I'm not against an interior defensive lineman, even though you look at Carl Brooks and Kobe Wooden and Devontae Wyatt and Kenny Clark, and you say, well, we got a ton of guys there, because you can never have too many weapons going after the quarterback and on that defensive front.
Especially if you can get 300-pound guys that can rush the passer. It sounds dumb, but that is one of the needs across the NFL, that it is becoming more and more valuable in the NFL.
Billy, a couple Super Bowls ago, the guy who won basically the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl for the Rams was Aaron Donald.
No
Correct.
doubt.
To me, the guy, Patrick Mahomes, deserves all the credit he gets, but the guy who won them the playoff games this year was Chris Jones. That and their defense is still, I mean, what those two guys did interiorly against the run game and against the pass game when they're rushing a quarterback. I mean, you can have guys on the edge, but if you don't have that push up the middle, it's almost non-impactful.
Well, and think about the teams that have in the NFC been competing for the title. Like you mentioned, you bring up the Rams, 49ers. They watch the Eagles with Hargrave. They're like, yeah, we need that guy. We need to give him all the money that we have in free agency to bring him in here. And the Eagles have had one in Fletcher Cox for a long time. He walks out of the building now. Like that's a crazy premier position right now, because dudes are getting paid $100 million.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was not a spot people were making $100 million before.
I don't care who Goody takes in the first round this year, as long as it's not a quarterback, a kicker, a punter, or a long snapper. I mean, that's it. I mean, he
Running
could
back,
pick,
you take a running back?
He could pick any other position. I think I'd be fine.
Tight end?
If they get Brock Bowers,
If they would get Brock Bowers,
Yeah,
yes.
I guess so.
I mean,
I-
I'm not
well,
against
right.
any other position, to be honest with you. Of course, it'll have to be substantiated through some analytics that validate that he wouldn't have been available
Right.
later, and maybe running back, that's not the case.
Well, really quick, I know we got to go to a break, but I agree. I always thought position of need was sort of a trap, a fallacy. Take a good player. Good players always play. Remember when the Packers traded down and got Jordy, and people said, we got Jennington Driver. Who's this guy, Jordy Nelson from Kansas? We don't need this guy. Well, guess what? He ended up helping you a lot. So
yeah, then they got to nickname him White Lightning, and then people were buying 87 jerseys left and right. 414-799-1973. We're back after this. It's 9 to noon. Stay wide on the game. come NFL draft time, everybody has their guy. Now, we love hearing them, and we want to hear them tomorrow and Friday. Pick your player. You pick your guy. Tell us why he is a stone cold lock and why the Packers cannot miss on him. We're going to have a can't miss coming up in about 15, 20 minutes from right now. But John, this is where I say we all have our guys for different reasons because Brian from Milton, my dog's name is Cooper. So I want all players by Cooper names. Cooper DeJean, Edgerrin Cooper, inside linebacker from Texas A&M. He wants Cooper Beebe, which I think a lot of Packers fans would be okay with if they ended up grabbing a bloodline like that. Little Cooper Beebe. Hey, we all have our guys. We all have dudes that we want. Why would you not go with your dog's name? Now, I don't think anybody in this, I don't know anybody in this draft that's named Harley or Bella. So I think I'm out on that one. I don't know about you. So we're going to have to find another reason why we're going to pick our players' names.
I heard there was a dog in 1989 named Tony.
There we go. Yes.
I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe that's why we didn't go Barry.
Yeah, more dog named Tony. The dog didn't matter. The dog's name, the dog doesn't know. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you guys right now. The dog has no idea. Okay, that
would be awesome if he did, though.
It would be awesome.
You're just assuming that dogs don't know. Dogs know.
You were absolutely right. I'm assuming that. I can't say with 100% certainty that dogs don't actually know who's drafted.
He's sitting there pumping his.
Listen,
yes,
we don't know.
They got me.
We don't know what it's like in the dog world. They might be getting together with their buddies and having their own mock drafts. We have no idea what the dogs are thinking, except the only difference is they do it for the, the Westminster show. It's they sit around the Westminster show. That's
their bracket challenge.
Their bracket challenge. That's what are you guys looking at the toy dogs this year?
November Madness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You guys look at the working dog breeds this year. This is a big class in the working dogs breeds, and the border collie breed or whatever they call it. The Westminster show. You never know. That might be the one where they get around and sit around for it.
I know there's a lot of people that are with Brian and Milton though wanting Cooper DeJean. There's certain guys that want to reunite him with another former Iowa product. And that would be like the 715. It said, ask John to assess Lucas Van Ness' ability to be more of an impact player coming up this year. And John, when you were talking about moving Rashawn Gary in and out, that was Lucas Van Ness at Iowa. I mean, like he rushed against guards and centers almost more than he did on the outside, that he's going to be on the field more. Now, if you pair him up with another Hawkeye teammate, if they go Marius Mims, that would be 4 of their last 5 first-round picks out of Georgia. Mm-hmm. Could they just go back-to-back with Iowa guys? Many people would be happy.
And they love Iowa on defense. There's been a litany of Iowa defensive players for the Green Bay Packers over the years. But, hey, Lucas Van Ness, what's he going to do this year? Yeah, I could see him lining up inside. This is the cool thing when you start doing that on third downs. It makes a TE much more impactful. When you start doing those twists and those rush with those two guys, it makes a bigger factor than offensive lines are used to dealing with. So I expect a big jump out of Lucas Van Ness this year. I really do. And in his limited playing time last year, he did have moments where he jumped off the screen, right? He got a couple sacks against Justin Fields, which how slippery Justin Fields is and how hard he is to get down. So yes, I expect a big jump in play this year for him.
Fat money for a member of the NFC North. Sources, this from Ian Rappaport, Lions have a deal for one of their top talents, signing an extension to Amon-Ra St. Brown. 4 years, more than $120 million. Woo, $77 million guaranteed for Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Well, I mean,
that is a hefty,
it's a lot,
hefty payday. Makes Amon-Ra St. Brown the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL.
Okay, and I know everyone's going to ask this, is he the best receiver in the NFL? But that's not how it works, right? It's about the market and how the market increases. He's really good. I mean, that's a lot of money, but he's really good.
Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, just sitting back saying, look at God.
Yeah,
thank you.
Right.
Thank you for signing that deal now before I get mine. Yes.
We got next.
Oh, wow.
That's what it is. I mean.
Look at God. That is a great number. Congratulations. 414-799-1973. Hour number 3. Now listen, there's not going to be $77 million invested on a Coons Can't Miss. Unless Amon-Ra St. Brown is really, really interested in betting some baseball. Maybe he's got a little eBay in him. Who knows? We'll get into a Coons Can't Miss coming up. We'll get back to the Milwaukee Bucks after They take a brutal L last night, 125-108, the final at Fiserv Forum. How long will they be without Giannis? How long do you anticipate they can be? And if he's not back on Friday, where does the concern level that before we go behind the book at Potawatomi Hotel Casino Sportsbook? Lot to do in hour number 3. It's our best one of the day, each and every day. Coming up next with you on the game. Hanging out with you into hour number 3. We go behind the book at Potawatomi Hotel Casino Sportsbook coming up in a couple of moments. But before we get back to Bucks Pacers, as painful as that was last night, 125-108, Indiana evens the series at 1. Hey, they say a series doesn't start until a road team wins.
So it started.
So the series has started. See if it really fully starts for the Milwaukee Bucks, and they can go and take game 3 and take back home court coming up on Friday afternoon, a 4:30 tip from Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Guys, the site for Armin Sarian and your lovely bride, Laura, to go and witness Marquette and Purdue both playing for a chance to go to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, it was a good day. Both great games.
It was a great moment for you as Marquette fan.
Yep.
I told you that I had some news from Ben Steele, covers Marquette Golden Eagles for Milwaukee Journal.
I told you I wouldn't look until you told me on air. So
and John, he got so nervous.
Something bad? Is something bad? Did something bad happen?
This is the Sarian special right here. According to Marquette Deputy AD, MUBB has inked a home-and-home series with Purdue starting next season.
Are you kidding me? Home in Purdue? We're going to Mackey.
At home with Purdue.
I'm going to Mackey.
It'll start in Milwaukee next November, and then a return date to be determined in West Lafayette.
I can't wait
in 2025.
I can't wait to hand Laura an L in Mackey. That's what we need. Marquette's going 2-0 in that series.
How are you doing this with a kid? How are you doing this with a 1.5?
I don't know. That's the tough part, man. You know what is crazy, guys?
Drop him off at Uncle Billy's house. We'll take the kid for the night.
Yeah, he will. You'll babysit, right?
Yeah, we'll babysit.
You know what is
fact
crazy?
That they did this after you guys have had a baby.
I know.
Is kind of rude.
But
it's kind of rude.
But you know what is amazing? I got to say this. It's before I knew Laura, Marquette and Purdue hadn't played for like 40, 50 years. It was like 1969 to 2016.
Nice.
Ever since then, they played like 3 times or 4 times. Ever since then, now they're going to play 2 more times.
2 more times.
That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. That is awesome. Home and home.
Home and home with the Purdue Boilermakers.
Oh yes. Where does it start? Where does it start?
It starts in Milwaukee in November.
Okay, it's great. It's going to be a lot easier to go to the Milwaukee game first.
That's fair.
With the newborn,
with the newborn, couple of months old.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited for a couple of reasons. A, I thought something bad was about to happen.
Yeah. Man, you were convinced Cam Jones was leaving. I could have told you Shaka Smart just took a job in the NBA as an assistant coach.
Something like that.
You were so turned upside down.
The Al McGuire Center sinking into the ground, or so I didn't know what was about to happen. All right, home in Purdue. I'm finally going to get to see my team play in Mackey. By my team, I mean Marquette. Don't get it twisted.
Don't get that twisted.
All right.
So you won't wear that Purdue crew neck that you were rocking for national championship night.
Heck no, I'm not wearing my Purdue crew neck. I'm going to be all in gold. I can't wait to talk some trash to Purdue fans. I haven't been able to do that. I've been a Purdue
Hold on.
Half fan.
You have a chance to talk stuff to a Purdue fan every single night.
Well, I mean, like during a Marquette Purdue game, I'm not gonna talk trash.
You weren't talking trash to Laura in the championship of the Maui Invitational this year.
We weren't together. I was working Admirals that night, watching it at the arena. So.
Wow, this is awesome.
All right, that's great. All right, I love that.
And now Marquette fans are just going through their mind like, hey, at least Purdue won't have a 7+ center last year. Oh wait, they're not gonna have a 7-foot center next year, right? No, they probably will have like 2 or 3 because that's just what they end up doing.
Got these guys coming like a pipeline.
It's unbelievable.
I don't know where they come from.
1.74 foreign guy comes in. Let's bring another one in from Germany. This guy's gonna be 7'3" and end up knocking down a couple of triples.
Exactly.
Find one from Switzerland. He'll come on in. He's 7'2". It doesn't matter.
Next year when Dak Eady is in the middle of the lane, just roaring elbows through everybody, getting fouls called in abundance, Arm will be pissed once again.
It's gonna be a guy he's gonna be from like Lithuania, or he's gonna be from like New Zealand. I mean,
100%.
Australia.
They're like, wait, we get Ben Gold and they get this guy?
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a Ben Gold stray.
You know what? I love Ben Gold. It's not about that, but yeah. All right, great. Home and home. That's it. First of all, besides it being my personal interest, that's a great home and home to set up.
Oh, it's a good one. No doubt about it.
What a fantastic set of games. So that's going to be good.
And it happens a day after that Zach Edey officially does declare for the NBA draft. I saw some people saying that they could see him going in the top 15. Like, I mean, people for so long had just buried and said, dude, he's not an NBA player. He's not an NBA player. He's gonna get drafted. He's gonna get a chance. He's gonna get a guaranteed contract and at least get some cash put in his pocket, which is interesting because he's one of the most decorated college players, John, in history. And didn't really make any of the NIL money in the years of NIL because of his Canadian residency and the restriction with the NCAA. It's hilarious for Zach Edey.
Could he make big men great again in the NBA? Could he do that?
I would like to see it. I don't necessarily know, but I do think that he moves laterally better than people give him credit for, which is good. I think he's going to have a little bit more of a chance that way. More importantly, Bucks are going to need some youth in the big spot. I don't know that is a way that you make up for the lack of speed. It looks like that Brook Lopez was dealing with last night, especially being able to cover out onto the perimeter, sitting right in middle of no man's land, knowing he's got to be able to protect the paint without Giannis. Tough spot in Bucks 125-108 L last night. Let's go behind the book and see how it was at Potawatomi Hotel Casino Sportsbook as we welcome in our returning champion, Justin Arnett, to the program. Justin, appreciate the time as always, man. Playoff time in the NBA, NHL. I imagine the place had to be live yesterday as we're just a couple of weeks away from the unveiling of the brand new sportsbook.
Hey, yeah, exactly. That's taken up all my time. Really excited about it, man. It's really coming together. The space is awesome.
How have you guys noticed the tick up once the playoffs have started and a little bit maybe more awareness and people wanting to get down there and invest for this first week?
Yeah, we definitely see an uptick when the playoffs, not only, to the play, you see it with the play on the court, but you see it with the people making the bets too. People get excited for the playoffs, it's go time. So we see it. And also hanging around the book area, I see a lot of people kind of looking behind the curtain and kind of take a sneak peek of what we're going to unveil next week. I think the excitement's building. I know it is for me anyway. I don't want to speak for anybody else. But
well, okay. So give us a sneak peek behind the curtain. I mean, are all the fixtures in? Is the paint dry yet? Does it have that new smell?
Yeah, a lot of it's there. We're still getting some of the furniture in and the tables and that sort of thing. They're fine tuning that screen. The crown jewel is that giant screen.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks even better in person. It's just so huge, and they're fine tuning that and making sure all the different layouts look good, and it's like ultra high definition. It's like really really good quality. I think it can go higher than HD or whatever. It's it looks great even on the curve. I'm so excited about it.
I didn't know there was higher than HD. That's awesome, right? I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah, 4K,
and
I guess 4K.
Oh, 4K. Yeah, right.
Justin, who operates that screen? Is there a man back there that's in a control room that has to operate this at all times? It's not just the bartender, and you say, "Hey, can I get the Brewers down here in the bottom right? I can't really see them on the top left." How's that work?
No, it's actually the sportsbook staff. Because we're the sports people, so we're finger on the pulse of the content. We know we take it very seriously, about content management. Make sure we get the important games up and get people what they want to see, and not only that, I probably shouldn't say anything yet. I don't think we've even signed that. We're trying to get the finalization on the contract, but we're looking to host the UFC pay-per-views. I think we're going to try and get this Canelo fight next week. Yeah, we're not going to charge to get in. It's just going to be open to the public to come in, and
let's go.
We want to be the spot for all things sports. So if you got a big event, we want to be the spot where you come and enjoy it, and get a beer, maybe make a bet, and enjoy that giant screen.
Well, I can imagine if you're an avid Bucks fan or a Brewers fan and you can't get tickets to a game, or maybe you want a different place to watch it with other people, that place is going to be filled pretty much night in and night out with fans ready to cheer one another on as they watch their teams.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, going to the game is the best, right? That energy. But in a book, you really replicate that, especially when everybody, they got a little bit of coin on the thing, just makes it that much more exciting. Everybody's cheering. I mean, it gives me goosebumps just even thinking back and remembering a lot of the cool times I've spent in sports books. And, we've got this balcony. We've got it's going to be like a VIP space where you can reserve, maybe do like little buyouts. And it's just such a cool space. We really think the energy in there is going to be second to only being at the game.
We've been
Can't ever beat that.
Absolutely, Justin. We've been blessed now to know you for a little while here, have this relationship, and get to know you. And I can definitely hear the excitement in your voice.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear the twinkle in your voice. I know how excited you are for this. I know how passionate you are about the industry, about the relationships it can build for sports fans, the connections. So you being this excited, I'll have to admit, makes me even more excited for this beautiful opening. And yes, you did catch me peeking behind the curtain. That was me. Sorry about that. That was. Hey,
what
listen,
are you doing?
I didn't know I walked in the wrong place. Whoops. Whoops. Sorry.
You gotta
about
watch
that.
this guy.
Yeah.
Justin.
Yeah, I gotta keep an eye on you for sure.
Got to, absolutely.
You talk about the UFC pay-per-views, and that's something that very near and dear to my heart, because it means that I don't have to go and try to get on any random illegal streaming service and potentially give viruses to a computer. Yeah, allegedly. And Justin, you talk about energy. That is energy that's unlike any other. So for you guys being able to find, you mentioned it, try to get that unique experience. Was that something that was thought of we could be the only one really in the market doing this? And obviously you're the only one in the market providing legal sports betting anyway, and being able to do it not only just for the core 4 North American sports. How big was that a selling point for you guys?
Yeah, so it's funny. Our director Sean, he's a big UFC guy. When he moved here, and I recruited him to come. We want to do it the right way. And
Nice.
I worked with him in the past, and he's a big UFC guy, and he was trying to find places to watch it, and he couldn't find, who was showing the events. So I was like, you know what, it's going to cost us a lot of money, but it's okay. I think it's important that we provide that. If nobody's doing it, we're going to fill that void, because we're going to have the best screen in town anyway. So might as well put it to use, right? And so,
can't wait.
It's gonna cost us a pretty penny, but whatever. That's part of the business. It's important to me to do it right, and so we want to provide that for everybody.
But anybody that's ever gone to a UFC watch party will tell you it fills up. It is absolutely bumper to
They
bumper.
move the needle for sure.
It is in there. Everyone I've ever been to,
and it's
is
better
standing
watching
room
on
only.
television than it is in person. Like, that's one event that it is better on TV with the broadcast than it necessarily is in person.
Agreed. And actually, we open next Friday, right? The 3rd. On the 4th, there's not only a UFC pay-per-view, but there's also a big Canelo fight, right? A boxing pay-per-view. I'm planning. I'm probably getting ahead of myself. Marketing's gonna hate me, but
let's do this. That's what we do.
Yeah,
we push those
we're
guys.
talking
We like
about.
to push them a lot.
On the dotted line yet. We've got to still sign, but I'm confident. We're fighting to get both of them. Actually, we want to have the boxing match and the UFC event playing at the same time. The pay-per-views in the book. The second day we're open.
We're sleeping.
But wait, Justin, you didn't even mention a Super Bowl of another sport. The Kentucky Derby will be taking place on the 4th as well. I mean, do you have your hat and your suit all prepared for this thing? Are you ready to go? You got your Derby?
I'm not a hat guy. I'm not a mint julep guy either, but I do love the Derby. Unfortunately, we don't have our OTB, like our pari-mutuel. That we're not going to have that available. And so we're not going to be able to accept wagering on the Derby, but it's going to be on the giant screen, right? The main race we're going to put up on the big screen, even though we're not taking bets on it. It'll be in there. You're right. It's that weekend. So it's going to be a pretty exciting day in the book, actually. Unfortunately, we can't take the bets. I don't know what the future looks like for that. I'm weighing options.
Okay.
There's a lot to get through to try and get that, but as of right now, we don't have it.
I think more importantly than anything, and I can hear it coming through in your
Yeah,
voice.
you show it for 2 minutes and then you go and play Dragon Link. It's way more fun.
That's what it is anyway. But it's the desire and the willingness that you clearly have and you guys have to be a source for Milwaukee's and Wisconsin sports fans, for this community to grow, and for the sports community, the sports wagering community to kind of connect and grow together, which I think is fantastic. I think that's the most important thing. And I think people are going to appreciate, I know people will appreciate that. I know we do already here, but people appreciate the fact that hearing the fact that you want to be that, and that you have a desire and excitement to be that for the fans here.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, I'm relatively new to Milwaukee. I got recruited out here, and a big reason why I wanted to come here is because our CEO is a great man, Dominic Ortiz. He has a big vision too. And so we align that way. We both believe in doing it big and doing it the right way. And so that brought me here, and I fell in love with this place real quick. You know, I drink my share of the beers, and this place is home of that. I love brats. I love cheese. So I love the community. So it's important to me to do it right and do it big and have and bring that kind of Vegas sort of experience here. So
awesome.
We align that way. So I appreciate that you see that, because it is important to me.
And obviously you love the local sports teams, and the Green Bay Packers are about to pick up some of their newest members here this weekend. Who are you targeting? Who are you hoping they get?
Oh, well, you know, I'm going to probably lose a bunch of fans right now, but I grew up in the Dallas area as a kid. So I'm, for better or worse.
You're in Milwaukee. You have grown fond of the people and the teams here. I set you up for this to lie.
I know. I'm a jerk. But you know,
you're too honest.
I come around
you're
the Bucks
honest.
and the Brewers, but I'm having a hard time with you. I know. And you're the guy with the Packers, but maybe they can be my second team. How about that? But I'm cursed with those Cowboys. It's in my soul, and it's been a painful ride the last 20 years. But anyway, I don't know. I will say though that the Packers, boy, they're poised to make a move. Frankly, since I'm taking the bets, it scares me, because I thought they were the better team when they played the Niners in that game. I thought the better team did not win that day. And so it makes me nervous for the future. Frankly.
I did want to mention
he can't like that.
I did want to mention you guys already have a lineup for the league opener. Packers are 1.5 point dogs against the Eagles in.
Why skipping that ahead?
Well, we
got all these investments that we can be making on Thursday night.
There's draft investments, right? The Packers have them. You got Packers market in there about position to go first. So a lot of interesting bets, obviously, for that. But it's just, it's just want to make that.
And
point.
The best part is, Justin, they can make the bets for Thursday night, get them all lined up, win a bunch, and then when you go to hang out with myself and Wayne Larrivee at Rockin' Brews on Friday and Saturday night for our draft special that will be at Rockin' Brews, they can cash tickets and reinvest for a Bucks game on a playoff game and more NFL draft. That's where the winner can be.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone, the market seems to think really Caleb Williams is the guy at number one. You can't make much making that bet, but if you think a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May, maybe the team, maybe the Bears switch it up. I mean, you can get 30-1 odds right now if you like Drake May or Jaden Daniels.
Well, and I love that you guys have second overall pick odds. You have third overall pick odds, fourth overall pick odds. My favorite one right now is first non-quarterback to go. So I am definitely going to be invested, and then hopefully cashing in a bunch of them coming up on Friday when we have our draft spectacular hanging out there in Rockin' Brews.
Yeah, to me, I feel like you might feel the same way. Like the NFL draft's kind of should be a national holiday.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
talking
love
about.
the draft. So I get all in it myself too. So
Justin is right. Justin is right there with us. Well, why don't we make a pick with all this conversation?
That's awesome.
You're listening to it from the man himself, Justin Arnett, down there at Potawatomi Casino Hotel Sportsbook. Go down there. Take a peek behind the curtain. Check out the 2,000 square foot LED screen. They're playing with it. They're probably playing video games on it. You can watch a little Fortnite or something, maybe a little Halo back in the day, taking a throwback on that big old screen, and watch them as they carry in the couches and the loungers and the tables, and see what this place is going to look like. Because come next Friday and they cut that ribbon, it is going to be the biggest sports book outside of Vegas, just in time for a big UFC fight, a big boxing match. You're going to have them up simultaneously, side by side. People are going to be going nuts in that sports book next week, and maybe you could be one of them. All right, yesterday took a loss. We got ourselves a Suns comeback in game 2. Did not come to fruition. They were catching a couple points, Armin. They had the lead at halftime. I thought this thing looked pretty good. Unfortunately, the big men for Minnesota were able to put the squadouche on the middle of that defense and make it very difficult for Kevin Durant and the rest of them. So I lost that one. We're going to go back to the hard court tonight, and I'm going to do Miami Heat, Boston Celtics over under 204. Now, Armin,
yes,
a little side hustle that we got. Take a guess at how many three-pointers were shot in the first playoff game by the Boston Celtics.
I'll say 38.
49.
They shot
49.
49
They had 32 threes in the first half.
49. They were well on their way to hitting
Wow.
over 51 and a half. They were well on their way to hitting over 51 and a
Right.
half, which will happen at some point in time in the playoffs for the Boston Celtics. And then you're going to owe me double of what you owe me from the last time. We just don't know what that is. We got to go back in the logs and figure it out. Nonetheless, they shot 49 threes, hit 22 of them. They scored 208 points in that game. I'm going 204 total here tonight between the Heat and the Boston Celtics. You know, playoff basketball, you know, Miami Heat likes to muddy it and slow it down, but they're going to have to score a lot of points to keep up with the Boston Celtics. That's why I like 204 for an over here tonight. Justin, do you like it?
Well, what I think doesn't matter going up against your record. I mean, you've just been killing it. So I'm gonna just ride with you. So I'm with you. Let's do it.
I like
Justin
that.
likes it.
Yeah, he's sweat,
Justin
John.
likes
Is that the right term? Sweat? When you follow someone's picks? Anyway, my point is it is interesting trying to figure out over-unders in the playoffs because NBA scoring's been up, but once the playoffs start, sometimes those things muddy up, like you said, John, and get slower. So this will be a fun one to watch tonight. And yeah, that is an interesting side bet we have. 51 and a half attempted threes at one game in the playoffs. This is a good start for you, even though you didn't hit it, John, because it looks like they're going to probably do it at some point. So
It's
we'll
just
see.
in their nature.
It might be.
Yeah,
The
you
nice
might be
thing
out
is,
on that.
nice thing is, I don't know what I owe him, so I don't feel too bad about it.
Not all
Well,
that
you're
worried
going
about
to
it.
owe me double.
Yeah, the double of what? Nothing. So something. Help.
Those are odds, and that's a wager that Justin Arnett's not taking. He's not taking you just placing something without any necessary understanding of what you're putting down.
No, it's not a real. Yeah.
But if you want to put down some cash and enjoy the heck of a night, go down to Potawatomi Sportsbook and make sure that you are also utilizing, because he's the president of digital gaming. Go and scan the QR code and get the apps, get the picks done on your phone, walk it up to the book, scan that QR code and place the money there. Make sure you're utilizing that digital side of the gaming. Justin, we always appreciate it, man. And cannot wait to see you. Hopefully I see you on Friday or Saturday when I'm down there for our draft show, day 2 and day 3 of the NFL draft.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I'll definitely hunt you guys down. It's always great to see you.
Appreciate it, man.
Guys.
Justin Arnett hanging out with us here today on 9 to noon, as he always does, Vice President of Digital Gaming at Potawatomi Casino Sportsbook, and the home for day 2 and day 3 of the game's NFL draft coverage. Again, myself and Wayne Larrabee will be at Rock and Brews, Potawatomi Casino Hotel Sportsbook, 5:30 starting up on Friday night, 11:30. The show will start on Saturday as well. We'll take you till 10 o'clock on Friday, 3 in the afternoon on Saturday, just in time for you to head over to American Family Field and check out Brewers and Yankees. A lot more at 9 to noon coming up right after this. You got it with Kuhn, Billy, and Armin on the game. Many saying a wrong has officially been righted. This coming out this morning as it's 9 to noon on the game. You're listening to myself, Billy Schmidt, John Kuhn, Armin Sarian. Welcome back from Las Vegas. Hopefully you didn't lose too much cash over there, or
Thank you.
lose something really, really important to you, like Reggie Bush did a number of years ago when he lost his Heisman Trophy due to the improper benefits he and his family had reportedly, and ended up being true. It wasn't just a reported deal, had gotten while he was at the University of Southern California. Today, his Heisman Trophy officially returns to him. The Heisman Trophy, a photo of it sent over from today as Reggie Bush gets his Heisman Trophy back, looking fantastic in a plaid suit. He has not had it. Won it in 2005, lost it, I believe, in 2008. And the statement from Bush today was, personally, I'm thrilled to reunite with my fellow Heisman winners and be a part of a storied legacy with the Heisman Trophy. I'm honored to return to the Heisman family. I look forward to working together with the Heisman Trust to advance the values and the mission of this organization. The Heisman Trust calls it a, quote, enormous change in the college football landscape as to why the formal reinstatement of the trophy came today. Guys, what do you make of this? Reggie Bush finally getting that Heisman Trophy back on his mantle.
What I make of it, I make of it that we decided finally to not try and erase history.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to try and erase things that happened and say they didn't happen and take a trophy away from a guy who won the award, right? I mean,
Sure.
It's hard when you talk about situations like this, like avoided Heisman Trophy, guys that can't get into the Hall of Fame because it was suspected that they did steroids. I'd love to go back and say that the Hail Mary was incorrectly called, right?
Yeah, we would like that. Yeah, we would like
all
that.
All kinds of things I'd love to go back and say, but to me, it never really happened. To me, Reggie Bush was always the Heisman winner. So it's just a technicality in my book.
That's a good point. The trophy itself, while very important, was just a symbol of what we knew he already was, which was the best player in college football that year. And
arguably one of the best college football players I've ever watched.
Ever. Yeah. And
right. Like in my lifetime, he's one of the most explosive, most entertaining college football players I've ever watched.
And to me, it was always different than something like a debate about performance enhancers, because you knew that what you saw on the field was always legit. It didn't matter how he paid to get to school or who paid for him to get there, what kind of
where his parents were living.
It didn't really matter, right? What mattered was on the field, he was undoubtedly that quality of a performer, of an athlete. And in that sense deserved the award without a doubt. I mean, he was that good. So to me, it was always a different thing than performance answers. I always thought it was silly he had to give it away for that reason. I always thought it was somewhat posturing by the Heisman Committee. I understood why they felt like they wanted to do it, because they have rules they want to enforce. Fine, whatever. But the reality was he was always the Heisman winner, whether or not he owned the trophy. So it's probably it's good that he got the trophy back. Why now? I don't know. That's kind of interesting too. They just kind of saying, you know what? We're going to give it back to you. This is the way the world is now. We think it'd be silly to keep it.
I think what they're saying now is that players in college can get NIL deals that pay them an extreme amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we punishing Reggie Bush, who was just ahead of the curve and doing it illegally? I think it kind of doesn't make sense to continue to have a Heisman Trophy voided just in terms of technicality here, so that you could say he took money or took a house or whatever it is that they said that they did back then, when potentially those things could be going on legally today. And, it brings up the conversation then about sports betting and gambling and everything that's kind of taken its way here in this world. Pete Rose and his situation with the Hall of Fame, do they ever go back and actually fix that and change that kind of decision?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And it's also about him being included with the fraternity again, right? Of Heisman winners. It's about the feeling
being
of
on
not
stage,
not being
there.
ostracized, probably feeling like I was part of an exclusive club, and it probably didn't feel good that he was left out of that, right? After feeling like he had earned it. So that's probably as big as anything of just getting the trophy back, I would think.
The Pete thing is tough for me, John, because I am still obvious. As one of the biggest supporters of sports gambling in the world, I don't know if they'll ever do that with the precedent that it would set of doing it on your own team's games. It's similar like when people are going back and forth with the Jonte Porter deal.
Sure.
Of, well, if this was Jokic, he wouldn't be banned for life. If he bet on his team to lose, Yeah, I still think he'd be banned, right? Like all due respect, that would still happen because there are some things that are going to be non-negotiables that you have to. Is the perfect situation that it wasn't like baseball, your all-time leader in hits and people saying one of the consensus greatest players they had ever watched. But it's like that one I just don't know ever ends up changing. This one in particular, with how drastic the landscape is differently, I also struggle as somebody that watched it, not remembering, like you said, of forgetting history. That was the most explosive team I had ever watched. Like, I mean, watching him at USC, he was what you thought of video game actually on turf. That was NCAA football being brought to real life, and him running all over the place, throwing laterals 40 yards downfield. He was a cheat code to watch in college. It didn't necessarily always translate into the NFL career that some people thought he was going to have, but damn, was he fun to watch.
It was.
It was too good.
It was one of those seasons that, and I was in college at the time watching it as well, that you just thought, man, this guy is absolutely unstoppable. I remember them playing UCLA the last game of regular season. It's like, if anybody could knock him off, maybe it could be UCLA with this. Right, he took the first carry 80 yards straight to the house. And no, it's not going to happen today. Not going to happen with Reggie Bush.
Yeah, this is over.
Yeah, he was always electric. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And he still had a really good career in the NFL. You know.
Oh yeah, dude. Right. Like, I mean, he was a very productive player. He played with 3 different teams. Played 10 years. People just thought he was going to walk into the NFL and take over. I still remember when he ends up going 2. The night before the draft, when it comes out, they signed Mario Williams. Yeah. You're like, hold on, you're not going to take Reggie Bush?
That was crazy.
Does this guy need to get fired here as the general manager of the Houston Texans?
I also remember it being like such a letdown, because I remember like thinking if they had actually just drafted Mario Williams, that would have been amazing theater. To not 100%. Draft Bush. But then they're like, they signed Mario Williams. I'm like, wait, so that's the first pick? We already started the draft? Like, I remember that being like sort of
that was quite anticlimactic of the old unslotted salaries for the NFL draft, of saying, well, if it kind of depends on who we can sign before the draft as to who we're going to take.
I remember
being decided that way.
Being in college, and we were all getting ready to watch the draft the next day, and this news came out like on SportsCenter the night before. And I'm like, it's crazy that it happened, but I'm like, that also kind of killed some of the buzz of the first pick.
I just remember being so pumped because the only thing I wanted from the Packers draft that year was number 47. Was all I wanted. I wanted to see at number 5, A.J. Hawk. And that 50 jersey was in the mail probably right as they announced it. I mean, like, that was he was my favorite football player at that time. And to watch them take him at 5, holy cow. And did I fight some people as an 11-year-old as to A.J. Hawk's effectiveness? Oh, I was fighting with everybody.
And the hair.
Thank you. It's fantastic. It looked too good, especially as a kid. You know, at that point, John, my mom made me always buzz cut my hair, so it was more just what I wanted.
Yet?
No, that only happened once I moved out and was out of my house, off my rules. 414-799-1973. You got to enjoy it on the brand new NicolaLaw.com. Talk and text line. It's 414-799-1973. We round third, head for home right after this on The Game. The game's NFL draft coverage presented by Buffalo Wild Wings is unmatched. Tomorrow night, it all starts day one. The whole staff going to be at Buffalo Wild Wings across the state of Wisconsin. Drew and KB at the West Allis location right on Highway 100. They start the coverage right at 3. Handed off to us, myself and Wayne Larrabee at 6. And then we'll be joined by Zabin Butch along with Armin Sarian up in Appleton at the Calumet Street location. Mike Heller and Nick Bruzewitz in Madison on campus, University Avenue at the Buffalo Wild Wings. Hang out with our guy, John Papadopoulos. If you're on the western side of the state, he's going to be in Alaska. And if you're in Green Bay, you know the place to be is Lambeau Field, 1919 Kitchen and Tap. Wayne Larrabee and I will be there live starting at 5:30 all the way through 10 o'clock. We'll have reaction with all of you, 414-799-1973 once the pick is made. All speculation until the pick is made. And more importantly, we're going to be able to see who is the starting quarterback for most likely 2 different teams in the division. We already know that it's going to be Caleb Williams for the Chicago Bears. Who could the Minnesota Vikings take? Will they go up for it? Will they spend a king's ransom to go up and get a Drake May or JJ McCarthy? We'll find out all together tomorrow night on the game's NFL draft coverage presented by Buffalo Wild Wings from our draft center inside Lambeau Field, 1919 Kitchen and Tap. And then day 2 and 3 coverage shifts with myself and Wayne at Rock and Brews at Potawatomi Casino Hotel Sportsbook. Doug Russell locked inside Lambeau all weekend long. The Love Muscle will be giving us all the audio we need from 1265 and maybe still sporting his USC gear, because right as we went to break, Doug Russell came in here in full Snoop Dogg regalia of like he was on the sidelines during the championship runs. It was awesome. USC fans are spiking the football, dunking the basketball here today, enjoying every little bit of it as Reggie Bush goes and grabs his Heisman Trophy. I was enjoying, guys, a lot of the back and forth yesterday that we were seeing on the Caitlin Clark contract. Now, we brought this up a couple of different times. More and more information is coming out about the deal that Caitlin Clark signed with Nike, reportedly $28 million. And in the pitch, there's talks of the conversation shifting to maybe Nike was asking her, wanting her to stay in college, as many people were wondering if indeed maybe her stock would not be as high if she was an NBA player or a WNBA player instead of a college player. That was at the Wall Street Journal. Fascinating how this massive deal, John, came together for right now. Honestly, the biggest star in sports.
And it's funny when you try and compare what's being reported as the offers that she had from other major shoe companies. I think Under Armour was 4 years, $8 million. I think Adidas was 4 years, $6 million. And I think Puma walked away when they were told that it was $3 million a year. So you got 3 other shoe companies looking to be a part of the, Caitlin Clark mania. And who knows, maybe Nike would rather have preferred her going back and being on our television screens a lot more for college basketball than she potentially will for WNBA games.
Yeah, the question is she going to have more value as a college athlete in terms of marketing is an interesting one. I know it's something we touched on a few weeks ago, but I think the reality is that Nike saw it as a good investment to try and, take advantage of what could be the next boon. Like, it's a story now, right? A legendary story about how they invested in Jordan early because they believed in him and they didn't, shoe marketing wasn't what it was, and it paid off beyond their wildest dreams. Whether or not it's the same type of exponential success here remains to be seen, but I have to think it's a good investment to take the chance for Nike and to see if Caitlin Clark, because if you ask me what I really feel like, every 12-year-old girl is going to want Caitlin Clark shoes. That's just the way it's going to be. I think they'll easily sell the shoes out.
My daughter already asked for them.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer.
I said they're coming.
It
kind of like the Taylor Swift new album drop. I hope these new shoes are not as I would say let down as the new Taylor Swift album drop. I hope they're I see you.
Well, where do the colorways come out? Where do the colorways come out, John?
But you feel the same way about Taylor Swift's album drop.
Yeah,
Friday,
I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to analyze music in that regard. I guess there wasn't any big singles.
You listened to it. Did it strike you? I mean, you are a big Taylor Swift stan. You've gone to the concert. You and Laura. You did the bidding with everybody else for the Sarah's tour. Did it hit you?
I like So High School, the Kelsey song. It was okay. The rest of it's okay.
Again?
No, it just it wasn't amazing, but I'm not gonna sit there and say I'm like the biggest music stand there is, but I get your point. It's the same idea. So we'll see if these shoes are popular. We'll see if they're not, but I'll say one thing. I think there's going to be a lot of them sold. No doubt about it.
They're going to get at least a pair out of me. That's for sure. And
There
then
you
after
go.
the older sister gets one, the younger sister's going to want one. So
Yeah,
they're
you're
most
not
likely
going to be able to
get
do
two
that.
out of me.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to only get one. It also says that it's going to be a signature shoe. Brands catalog also, it sounds like there's going to be a little bit of a clothing situation that's going to go in here with
Why
Caitlin
not?
Clark. $28 million over 8 years. And maybe a little fascinating as to why they were trying to push her back. Just gently suggest go back to Iowa. Iowa women's basketball does wear Nikes.
Yeah, they're
So,
already
I mean,
set
like
up. with
they
it.
were already
Yeah.
set up. Could have already had a couple conversations. Said, hey, you might like the rest of the girls to be rocking those Caitlin Clarks and see if we can sell some more. Who knows? But I could only imagine Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball team is going to be wearing Caitlin Clarks for the foreseeable future.
I would think so. When Wade got a Converse deal, his first deal out of college before he was a mega superstar,
Yes.
Marquette had all Converse. Marquette
better
won all
believe it.
Converse with
Everything.
all the Dwayne Wade stuff. Why not? You have to market your guy, and your guy has to
Those
market
early
you.
Wades were cool.
They were really the first edition was awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of people had them, the blue and gold colorway, which was hard to get. A lot of people had them. So, and I understand the other thing is, been a lot of great women's basketball players that didn't have the same type of shoe deal that she had. Well, Paul Hornig and Jim Taylor never got paid what Donnie Anderson and Jim Grabowski got in the 60s because the business of NFL and pro football was changing. Magic and Larry never got paid close to what a mid-level guy now is. We already know what the exponential growth of the game is. That's just the way business works. I mean, you can be upset about it and jealous of it and bitter about it, or you can just accept the change in times.
That part of the Magic and Bird thing, Barkley was on with McAfee maybe last week, and he said the two most important players in NBA history, not Michael Jordan. It was Magic Johnson and Larry Bird.
I think it's totally accurate.
Because nobody's making money like that. Was that still at the time where we were tape delaying the NBA finals?
Yes, late
Yeah.
70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the first finals was tape delayed there that the Lakers played in with Magic.
Yeah. So, I mean, that just shows the impact that those guys had on the game. That's our Quick Trip takeaway of the day. Brought to you by Quick Trip. Need something for dinner? Do not cook. Stop by your local Quick Trip. Pick up a freshly prepared, absolutely delicious take-home meal. Armin Sarian, you might even find. How you feeling on your return?
Oh, I'm feeling great. I'm happy to be back, guys. We're jumping right into a big week already, no doubt about it. Birthing class tonight, tomorrow night. I'll be in Appleton for the draft, so we're jumping into a big week.
Now, what would have happened if you would have had a birthing class on night one of the NFL draft?
I gotta work. We have to reschedule it. Sorry. Is that bad? Is that wrong? I hope Laura didn't hear that.
Yeah, you better hope that she wasn't listening.
I would have told Tim I can't work. Sorry, Tim.
Or you could have just been like John and I and probably not went. We'll be back tomorrow with exactly the player you want. You're going to tell us. You're going to pick your player coming up tomorrow for the Packers to pick at 25 on day one of the NFL draft. For John Kuhn, I'm Billy Schmidt. Armin Sarian's right there. We'll hand it off to Mike Keller next and try to be better on Thursday. It's 9 to noon on the game.